All right, so we are live here at the Ain't
We're
Done Yet
live,
podcast.
or is this pre-recorded?
I think. Well, is it both?
It's kind of both.
It's live right now.
I think we need to do it. It is live right now.
Pre-recorded for the future.
Yes, I think we do need to do some live podcast though. I was thinking about that, and it's like, oh, we'll just do it on Friday at 1 p.m.
That'd be cool.
You know, that'd be fun.
Let's do it. Well, not this one.
Not this one.
This one's pre-recorded, but live.
We're live right now.
Yeah, we are live.
I'm live. I'm here.
Yeah, you are live. And you promote that very much so.
Mm-hmm.
And you're the first live girl on the podcast.
Yeah,
woot,
shout
woot.
out.
Yeah,
Everybody, we want to introduce you to the amazing Jessi Rose McMaster. She's joining us here today. You are a force to be reckoned with. And we are super happy to have you. I heard you have.
She's an entrepreneurial McMaster.
Yeah,
that's right.
Literally,
Yeah.
literally. We are very excited to have you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm glad you finally got a female on this podcast.
Yeah, show us the way.
Yeah.
Show us the way.
Gotta mix it up a little bit. You need some
Yeah.
female energy in here.
Yeah.
I feel it. I feel it.
Yeah. So, with that being said, tell us your beginnings. Where you're here now, sitting in the podcast room with us in Las Vegas. But where did you start? Where did you come to this earth from? Where were you?
Where
was I? Where did I come from? Well, I think my story as an entrepreneur and business I run is I started as an athlete. I was an athlete my whole life. I started playing soccer when I was 5. My dad was a college athlete, so I very much was raised with that kind of, I'm going to do sports.
What did your dad play?
He played football. He was a middle linebacker.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Where did he play?
Arizona State.
Oh, cool. Okay.
He's going to get really mad at me if I got that wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's
Yeah.
My brother-in-law played for Arizona State University, and he became a professional baseball player
Oh, cool.
after Arizona State. I wonder if they went to school at the same time.
Yeah, I wonder.
Interesting.
I think he graduated, I want to say 99 or 98. No, he graduated 96 from ASU.
My dad was way before that.
Way
for
before
sure.
that.
Hold
Okay.
on it. Yes, he would be before that because Peter was born in 96. So,
Yeah.
Okay.
mm-hmm.
Okay.
But yes,
Southern California.
Southern California is where I am originally from. And yeah, I played soccer pretty much my whole life.
Were you like a team leader in soccer? You know, because I know you to have this like entrepreneurial mindset. So, and usually that includes like leadership.
Yes, on some teams.
Mm-hmm.
I was on lots of different teams. So whether that was the team for school, that's one team, but then you also have your club teams, and then you also have your like off-season club teams.
Mm-hmm.
So that just depended what team I was on.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't necessarily enjoy being the leader when I was younger. Now,
Well, why didn't you
different-
want to be the leader?
I think maybe I just wanted to play.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to play and I wanted to win. And I didn't really care if I felt like being a leader, I like this responsibility of people have to like me. And I didn't really care if people liked me or not. I just wanted to win.
Okay.
So at that time, when I was the preteen
a smart business
teen,
person starting right away.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's signs of a good business person.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care.
and I would have on most of the teams, there were some teams where I would be the team captain, but on a lot of teams, I preferred to just pump up somebody else that seemed to want to take that position
Mm-hmm.
and, stand behind them, allow them to be the leader. And then I could just like focus on my job, which was like scoring goals.
Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So at that, but that was just the time of my
I mean,
life.
it sounds like that's still kind of pivoting people into positions, right? And then that's opening the doors for you to kind of ramrod through and take care of business,
Yeah. And I also feel like I have an older sister, but I also have 2 younger brothers. And so my role in my family was often the older responsible sister, where I had to take care of a lot of things in my family. And I feel like when I was on my teams, I didn't want to have to worry about that. Like I kind of took, some
like
people.
You're like, I do this all the time.
Yeah.
It's nice to not have to.
Yeah. Like I want to come and I just want to play soccer. I want to do what I love to do. And I don't want to worry about having to be in charge because I'm in charge in other ways. So I think that was maybe part of it.
Makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
So soccer was your focus from 5 to 22?
Well, I played soccer for that long. It definitely took up a lot of my time, but I did other things. I also loved theater and music. So like I played the flute for a little while. I played piano for a long time. I acted in plays whenever I could. I kept myself very busy. Yeah, I kept myself very busy. I have a really big family. So along with my siblings, I also have a ton of cousins. So I was always really busy.
A lot of different ways to express. A lot to express. A lot of different avenues, it sounds like.
Yeah. And my parents are really good about allowing their kids just the freedom and the space to do it. Their whole thing was as long as you're involved in things. So the more you can be involved, the better. They really did a great job of pushing us to, oh yeah, go do that. Oh, you want to try that? Okay, go do that. Oh, you want to do that now? All right, go try that. As long as they could afford it, which sometimes they couldn't, but as long as they could afford it, they were behind us in that. So that was very helpful.
Well, I mean, that's part of the entrepreneurial mindset too, right? Is that, entrepreneurs tend to always have to be busy doing something. Can't sit around, can't sit still, always have to keep going and keep motion. And, I mean, I sit on the weekends and I'm just like frantic. I'm got to be in the garage working on something.
Yeah.
Accomplishing something, fixing something.
Yeah, I see that about you guys for sure.
I mean, I see that in you too, sir.
To certain degrees, yeah.
I think a lot of it is you contemplating inside your head what you're going to do next.
A lot, yes, right? A lot of that. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah,
I don't sit too dormant when I'm like a duck. My feet under the water are the thoughts.
They're going.
Yeah. Always going.
But on the surface, you're just like taking a nap.
I'm just chilling, just sitting there.
Has Ryan moved in an hour?
Nope.
Under the water he has.
So a lot of expression and a lot of enthusiasm is something I've noticed. With everything you do in your life, you have so much enthusiasm, which is such a wonderful trait. And sometimes it seems like it's a very rare trait in society to be so enthusiastic, even about the mundane things in life. You have so much enthusiasm. Where do you think that comes from?
Well, I think I've been this way since I was a little girl. I don't, I'm just excited about life. I really am. And not that bad things haven't happened or, but yeah, generally I'm just kind of pumped up about things.
Yeah.
So, I think part of it comes from my dad. My dad's a pretty enthusiastic guy. So I think that helps.
Yeah.
I think, like I said, my parents giving me the space and the freedom to express myself. Like there's like stories of me, being 5 years old and I love singing and since I was a little girl and I loved when I was little to say hi to everybody. And I wanted to say hi. And then when I got my little brother, who's 2 years younger than me, he had these beautiful blue eyes and we'd be in the store and I just want to, hi, and want to say, and then people would always see him because he had this dark hair and these beautiful blue eyes. And I would get so jealous. So I'm like,
Don't look at them. I'm the one who's saying hi.
I'm the one, and I was this little, blonde girl that was just like, wait a minute.
So that probably reinforced it too.
It probably did. It probably made me louder most likely.
Yeah.
But I would stand on tables in restaurants and just sing to the people next to me. And my parents allowed it. They really my parents promoted it.
Encouraged,
right? Get on the table. You sing to them. And then they would continue doing whatever they're doing while I was just, having a whole conversation singing to strangers. I think that played a big part as I got lucky in that way where my parents really allowed the space for just freedom, play, expression. My parents were big about play. Like, let's just play. Let's go camping and just, there was a lot of just space for that, which was really nice.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that helps.
So was your plan always to run your own business?
No.
Not even a thought.
Not even a thought.
What did you want to be when you grew up?
Well, I wanted to be a lot of things. I wanted to be famous. That was how I started.
So fame. It wasn't specifically, I want to do this and then I
didn't
will
really
be
know
famous.
what I wanted to do.
You just want to be famous.
Yeah. And then I wanted to be an actress because actresses become famous.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, acting. So I started getting into acting. And then, it wasn't until college I took an acting class and I was like, oh, this is not what I want to do. This is awful. I don't really like it.
You didn't like it?
Didn't like it. And I had done plays in high school, but that's a little different. But then you take like a college acting class and then you really get a taste of like, oh, no, I don't, like so this is fun.
I loved that. I didn't want to be famous. I wanted to be an actor. I wanted to be an actor for the skill of being an actor and being believable and all of those kind of things. And so when I took those courses, I was like, yes, I want to do this, but things took me in another path. But anyways, yeah. So you didn't want it. That took you away from wanting to be
I enjoyed it.
I
enjoyed it. But what I found was, what I think, and especially in the first couple of years of college, what I found with the acting was like, oh, this seems like a lot of work.
Yeah. And
at that time in my life, I was looking for a way to find something that I enjoyed doing, but where I can make some money. And I didn't. My parents were not necessarily, they struggled financially my whole life. And so I knew that I wanted to do something where I had autonomy around the money that I would make. And I didn't feel like acting, it's kind of like a one in a million kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
And it didn't feel like I would have a lot of autonomy around what I could create. And
it's
that's
funny
the
that
part
you
that
say
I
that.
like.
That's kind of what I thought about too, is that, it's just such a long shot. It's always why I always pushed these guys, because it's like, you're almost there.
Yeah.
You're almost there. Yeah. Just keep going.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's that always, I wanted to be in control of my destiny too.
And it's hard to put I give him so much props for like putting your artistry on the line as that's a big move, and like as an actor, you're really just like ripping yourself open and putting it all out there and like hope someone pays me,
Yeah.
And that's like that takes a special kind of mentality and drive and a focus also on your own art. So once I kind of understood that, the acting thing was like, well, that's not for me. Because at one point, I was also thinking about, maybe singing, being a musician. But then
Amazing
I did
voice.
I love singing,
voice,
but
yeah.
I never knew this either. And I mean, I've known you for a very long time.
We should go to karaoke together.
We should, but you don't want to hear me.
You can hold a tune.
I can play a little bit of pool while you guys are doing karaoke,
nice.
And I there was a lot of things. I was good at a lot of things, so I just was trying lots of different things. But I knew that I loved being an artist, whether that was singing or drawing or acting, however I expressed my artistry. But that's not how I wanted to make my money, and
you wanted to do that for fun.
Yeah, because I saw it. I'm like, well, if this is the way that I make money, then it no longer feels like it's mine. And that was a really important aspect of, how I felt about performing, or how I felt about, I also love to draw and paint. So drawing and painting felt the kind of that same way. It's like, I don't really want to share this with the world. Like put this all out there. You want this to be
yours.
Yeah, it's mine. I want this to stay fun and stay special for me. So I had to find out, do other things. So then eventually I was like, oh, well, let me be in the music industry is where I kind of started. So in college, I studied communications and marketing and PR. And then I got an internship working for a special events music company. And I did that for a couple years. And that was really fun. But then I realized, I don't want to be in the music industry. I was like, these people suck.
Yeah,
I just was like, once you start dealing with and the business deals and the way people talk to each other and the way they really, undermined each other.
Yeah.
And
I mean, there's some great people that, Ryan knows that I know in the music industry. There's some really great people. There's also some really, really bad people.
Well, and especially the people that are kind of like in charge.
Yeah.
Like the people that run the company or the people that, it's a game of how much can I get out of you?
Mm-hmm.
Can you ask him to do that for half his normal rate?
Yeah.
Like, well, that's a talented guy. Why would I want him to do it for half his rate? I would want him to get paid. I would want to be paid my rate.
Yeah.
And it was this game of, my boss or somebody telling me, oh, can you try to swindle that guy for more? I'm like, I don't want to swindle him for more. That sounds awful, and that was
kind of like the used car salesman that you become, right?
I was like, I don't want to do this. So then that kind of fizzled its way out too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you kind of got this internship when you were in college?
Yeah.
And were you still playing soccer?
No, I played soccer. I played my first 2 years of college. I played soccer. I had an opportunity to play right out of high school to go play a 4-year and sign a contract, but I decided not to.
Okay.
And so I decided instead, I'm going to play 2 years at a community college. Yeah. And I picked a community college that had a really good women's soccer team. And we were great. It was really fun. But then after those 2 years, you get to a point where you've done something your whole life and you're like, all right, like I know I'm good at other things, but I need to invest some time into these other things if I really want to be good at them.
So
10,000 hour rule.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, man, I already know how to play soccer. Like, let me do something new.
Yeah.
Sure.
So I kind of got to that point.
Okay.
And you were also you were living in essentially, chronic pain.
Yeah, that was the reason I had to stop. I decided to stop playing. Yeah. Because about that time, so, at this point, I'm like 20-ish years old. And I'm kind of deciding whether I want to continue to play soccer or not, in college, kind of professionally. And I had been in so much pain since I was a junior in high school.
From what caused the pain?
Lots of competitive sports, lots of impact injuries.
Okay.
I also had picked up snowboarding at that time. So I had several in high school, I had several instances where I fell flat on my tailbone. Either I was going
high
up
speeds.
Yeah. Yep. Either I was jumping up for a header and someone knocked my feet out and then I landed on my back or on my butt. That happened several times. And then, just hitting people. I was really aggressive in soccer.
Okay.
I had a very intense way of playing. And I hit people a lot.
Yeah.
I slide tackled. I knocked people out of the way. I was stronger than most girls.
Sounds like a middle linebacker to me.
My dad taught me well.
Punching folks in the teeth.
I was aggressive. I was really aggressive, but that made me really good. That made me very valuable to the team. I didn't give up, whereas like in soccer, a lot of the times you have two people running towards the ball, right? This happens a lot. And it's, the person who hesitates.
Who's going to stop first?
Yeah, the person who hesitates is the one that loses. So I was not ever hesitating, and I would run head into the person, and people knew that, especially if they'd played against me before. So they'd just be like, "Let me have it."
Yeah,
I'm like, sweet, and I would just keep going. Yeah. So after that, and also now where I'm at, I've had many major injuries, and what I've learned also is when you play, when you do anything repetitively over and over, especially physically repetitive. So in soccer, I would plant my left leg and I would swing with my right leg because I was dominantly right. I could use both feet, but dominantly my right. That was my striking leg.
Okay.
That's the kick.
My kicking leg. So that's how I scored goals is like, plant left leg and just as hard as I can swing my right leg. And you do that repetitively. And then, also you're doing that repetitively through puberty. Right, your body's maturing, your body's changing. Structurally, your bones start to form, your fascia, your connective tissue starts to form around that movement in order to protect your body so that, because you're continuing to do the movement. It's not like I stopped.
Mm-hmm.
And your body starts
your body's
to change.
analyzing
your
that.
body. Yeah, because our bodies are adaptable. That's how our bodies are made. So your body's like, okay, you keep doing this thing. You keep, okay, so I'm gonna start to form connective tissue to support you in this. And what that does is then pulls your skeleton into a certain kind of alignment. So in my case, what it did is it shifted my right hip to tilt forward slightly so that I would have more power in my hip flexors as I swung my right leg forward. So my right hip shifted forward, which caused my spine to go crooked, right? Because now my hips are, one side is sitting forward. And so my spine kind of started to go
almost like
crooked.
Scoliosis.
But I mean, you could call it scoliosis, but it's a misalignment is what it is.
Okay.
Whereas scoliosis, a lot of times people are born that way. They have like a and
my daughter has scoliosis, so my oldest does. Yeah.
Whereas mine, I kind of like created it.
So
in that sense, I could also like reverse it in a way, you know? But
did you need to be somewhere?
Sorry, I'm interrupting.
We could stop.
No,
You gotta go.
Sorry. 8 p.m. This is when I wake up. Wake up from my nap.
Rock stars. His morning alarm just went off.
I know.
It's
what
8
was that
p.m.
an alarm for?
I had to grab a guitar. Make sure I grab a guitar for an auction.
Okay, got it.
For Life by Music.
For Life by Music. Very good.
Yeah.
Continue.
Yes, please continue.
Okay.
My apologies. My deepest apologies. Wait, my girlfriend's calling.
Hey.
Wait, you're right here. All right.
What was I talking about? Oh, my hips. So
potentially reversing.
Yeah. So my hips sat crooked and then, kind of formed that way, especially going through puberty, especially a female going through puberty, hips tend to expand a little bit. Body goes through major hormonal shifts. And then you're doing this repetitive motion over and over. And then, now my spine is crooked, which is putting pressure on my intervertebral discs. All your nerves come out of your spine. So now I have pressure on nerves. And that was a major part of it. I also didn't stretch. No one told me things that now I know that would have really helped, like lay down on the floor and twist. Wow, what an amazing way to just release the tension out of your spine.
Do that all the time. I will
do it
lay
all
on
the
the
time.
hardest concrete floor when my back is on fire.
Oh my God, it's amazing. But
it is amazing too.
In high school,
and within 10 minutes, like my back is completely fine again. I can get up and walk around.
Because twisting is so necessary for the spine. The way those bones are put together is they need that little bit of twist in order to relieve tension. If they don't get the twist, they start to like get really hard and all the muscles start to tense in order to support. So this twist is really like, that is such a simple thing. But I didn't know that. I didn't know that till I started doing yoga.
Yeah.
And so by the time, now I'm in my, out of high school and I'm playing, the only thing that gave me relief was going to a chiropractor. So I'd have to go to the chiropractor every week or every other week just to be able to function. And at that point, I was just like, man, my body hurts. Like, I'm in college. I'm just like, why? I feel like I'm like a 7-year-old woman, like getting out of bed every morning. My hips hurt. My back hurts. I have sciatica pain.
I do that shit now. Wait till you get to be my age.
Well, hopefully.
Well, she's got remedies for that.
I know she does have remedies.
She's got a course for that.
Yeah,
she does.
I was like,
We're going to talk about that damn course too.
Now I know what to do, and I'm like, dang, I really wish someone would have told me this when I was in high school or when I was in junior high, because, then that maybe would have given me, like, maybe I did want to keep playing soccer. I was really good at it, but I was in pain and I didn't know what to do to get me out of pain. The only thing people told me to do was go to a chiropractor. And he would crack me. Okay. That would only last 10 days and I'd need to go again. And my back would lock and I would start to walk funny. And I'd be like, okay, I got to get myself to the chiropractor. And then crack. Okay. Gives me another 10 days. And it's just like, that's no way to live your life.
Yeah.
Especially when you're that young and it's just no way to live. So, that was going on for me too at that time. And so that was a big like, okay, I think I need to kind of, but I didn't completely stop because I kept playing in a women's league on Sundays.
Oh. So you were addicted to the sport.
I'm addicted to adrenaline.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm definitely an adrenaline junkie.
Well, we're going to fast forward and we'll come back. You know this because we were at a Golden Knights game sitting at the bar afterwards, and I go, hey, dude, I think Jess just tore her Achilles heel. I got to go.
Yeah.
we were just finishing the Knights game and hanging out, and you called me. I'm like, hey, babe, what's up? Yeah, we're just hanging out. You're like, I think I just tore my Achilles heel. I'm like, what?
And how did you do that?
Well, this is like way fast forward.
Yeah.
So,
Yes. We're going to go back after we fast forward. Yeah. We're going to hear this.
When I moved out to Vegas, what did I do to go make friends? Or, I joined a soccer team. I joined an indoor soccer team, co-ed soccer team. I love indoor soccer. It's like fast paced, very intense, totally fulfills my need for adrenaline on like Wednesday nights or something like that. And so that one season with this team, we're winning. We're in the championship team. We're in the championship game.
Okay.
And I had just scored 3 goals. And in indoor soccer, when you score 3 goals, you can't score anymore. Right. So I was like, okay, I'll go back on defense, push everybody else up. We're winning. It's the championship game. So I'm back on defense, and I just the ball is like across the field. And I just took a step to start jogging over there. And my back heel, it felt like someone had kicked me in the calf.
Ooh.
And I turned, I was in shock because there was only my goalie was behind me. So I'm like, this doesn't make any sense logically, but I'm like, wait, looking for like a ball that might have hit me. And I'm like, something is weird. So I limp off the field. We won the game.
Awesome.
Won the game, won the championship. And, but it's like an adult league. So everyone's just like, hey, bye. And everyone, and they're like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm okay. I'm all right. And I just kind of sat there for a second. And then I slowly limped myself out of the arena, limped myself to my car and sat in my car. And then it dawned on me, like, I think I did something really bad.
Yeah.
And so my mom's a nurse. And so I always just call my mom. Who doesn't? We all call our moms.
Yes.
And I call my mom.
Especially when they're nurses.
Yeah. And I'm like, this is what I did. Should I drive myself to the ER? And she's like, nah, you're probably fine. Even if something did happen, like what's the ER going to do? Really, the ER is not going to be able to do anything. It's
right.
This
I
needs
think we had the same discussion when she called and you're like, should she go? And I'm like, yeah, she should go. But what are they going to do?
They're not going to be able to do anything. It's not like I have a cut or anything like that. It's all internal.
Right.
You couldn't even really see anything. There was swelling, but it didn't look like anything.
Right.
It just felt weird. It's one of those things where you're
it just became like mushy.
And I couldn't really move my foot. It was just weird.
Because there's nothing holding the calf to the ankle.
So your foot just kind of hanging, and the calf, like you notice it when you move the foot and like nothing happens with the calf muscle. You're like, oh, that's weird.
Like the calf muscle doesn't tighten.
Yeah. Because it's not attached anymore.
Yeah,
there's just like jelly.
It's the Thompson test.
Yeah. So what they'll do,
how do they do it again?
What's the doctor? An osteo, not an osteo.
Orthopedic.
So an orthopedic, I went and saw an orthopedic the next day. And what they do is the Thompson test. So they squeeze your calf and your foot's supposed to move. If it doesn't move, you have a torn Achilles tendon. So yeah, that's how that happened.
Yeah.
How long are you in a cast for that one?
I was in a boot for 15 weeks.
Yeah, I know it's a long time.
It was a really long time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
and it never gets back. It never gets back to normal either, right?
I mean, I've been doing a really good job.
Yeah.
Really?
Just because the knowledge that I have, and the massage therapy background that I have, I've done a lot. I have paid. It's been about 3 years now since my injury, and I have done a lot of work, rehab work, soft tissue work on the scar.
You're so unlazy. Okay.
Yeah.
We'd rip our Achilles and we'd still be walking around limping.
Literally.
Well, I don't know, having pain at such a young age and being like now having the tools that I have that I wish everybody would have. I'm going to use them. Because there was a time in my life where I felt like I was stuck, where I was in so much pain, and all I wanted was some tools to help me. And I didn't know what to do. And I couldn't seem to find the answers. And it was very frustrating. I didn't like that feeling of like feeling, like
You're
useless.
helpless, right?
I'm helpless. I'm
Yeah.
helpless. And I hate
Melissa
that
feels
feeling.
that way right now with her Lyme disease, right? It's like she's got Lyme disease. She's been trying to do everything they're telling her to do. She's read every book about it. She's blah, 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 blah. And she still has it. And she's now on to the next set of doxycycline. And it's like, she's like, I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do and it still won't go away. So, yeah.
It's a frustrating feeling.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
when there is something, and the cool thing about soft tissue injuries, so like tendon injuries, something like this, is there is a lot you can do. There's a lot you can do. There's a lot of, you can do self-lymphatic drainage. You can work on the scar. You can start to increase the mobility of the joint. You can then strengthen the muscles around the joint. There's a lot of rehab that you can do to fix something like that. It's a very fixable injury.
Okay. Okay.
So
I was unaware of that.
Yeah.
Everybody that I've heard that ripped it is like, oh, it'll never be the same. But it was all dudes, dude. Yeah.
I was like,
Kobe Bryant ripped his Achilles.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. And
Really?
It's common mostly in men. It's pretty rare for a female to get a torn Achilles tendon. But
yeah. Well, I mean, probably because you're way more active, right? You're playing soccer, you're doing all of these type of sports, and that's where you're more prone to those injuries. I would guess.
Yeah, totally, absolutely. And I also think that my years of playing soccer, one of the things with being a soccer player is you tend to twist your ankle a lot. So yes, of course, like I twisted my ankles a lot. But the solution when you're playing sports is just tape your ankles. So every game practice, I had lace up kind of just like, a whole ankle brace that I would put on before I put on my cleats and my shin guards. I would put on ankle braces, both my ankles. I never did ankle strengthening, ankle mobility.
Yeah.
I never worked on my feet. I never, my feet are a very important
you're like,
part of
I've
the
got
sport.
this brace.
I just have the brace. And
Right.
so probably since I was, maybe a freshman, sophomore in high school until 20, 21, 22. I mean, until I got injured. So 30, I just wore ankle braces every single time I played soccer until finally my calves just like, nope, and just popped that tendon, so that's a huge detriment. And that's something also that, man, as a high school soccer player, or even as a college soccer player, man, I really wish my coach or the personal trainer in the gym would have said something about, hey, you're a soccer player. You should probably work on strengthening your ankles.
Well, I mean, it's funny because when you look at, the medical profession, let's just say over the past 30 years, right? We're just now starting to realize all the shit that we thought we were doing was right is all asinine, right? It's all completely wrong. There's a new episode on Tucker Carlson, and he's talking to a woman who went to school to be a medical doctor, and her brother who went to Harvard for business, and she quit the medical profession because they were only teaching her how to fix or how to medicate problems, not how to fix them,
how to cure them,
right? How to mask them, right? And that is what this entire medical industry is all about, right? Is feed them a bunch of pharmaceuticals because the pharmaceutical companies are the companies that are investing in paying for all the schools, right? They're the ones that are donating all the money to all the schools. And so then they're teaching all the doctors how to prescribe all the medications so that the pharmacies can keep donating more money, right? And so that's where I think our problem is that, and that's what you were doing, is you're braced up because people are telling you to brace up because that's what they were taught is to brace up, right? It's like, oh, brace the ankle. If your ankle hurts, brace it, right? Don't stretch it. Why would you stretch it? You got to lock that thing away so it doesn't get hurt again.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's, I think we're treating the symptoms. We're not actually attacking what the actual problem is.
Right.
Whereas
that was her exact words. We're treating the symptoms. We're not fixing the problem.
Yeah. Instead of looking at well, why does that? Why do they keep rolling their ankles? Let's look at that. How do we solve that problem?
Yeah.
oh, here's these exercises that can actually solve the root cause of all these ankle sprains, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
when
it's
did you
big.
get into yoga?
Well, so rewind a little bit back.
Bring it
So
back.
at this time where, you know, I'm kind of petering out of playing college soccer and trying to figure out what I want to do with my life. I had an astrology reading that she recommended. She's randomly in the astrology reading. She's looking at my chart and she's like, can see things, key things about my personality, and just recommended like, hey, you should go try yoga. Like, I think that'd be really good for your personality, really good for you. And I had taken like a yoga class, maybe two, and I had enjoyed it.
That? Okay,
I had enjoyed it. It was,
Uh-huh.
you know, the cool thing about when I first started taking yoga is being in a yoga practice, in a yoga class. And luckily, my first introduction to yoga was very meditative. It wasn't so much like we call them yoga gyms, you know, where it's just like, let's go work out kind of yoga. It was a whole experience. It was, for me, I came out of that, you know, first yoga class feeling like I feel when I come off of the soccer field, where this feeling of just like, ooh, like I left it all in the field, you know, like.
That's how I feel when I'm snowboarding.
Yeah.
You know, you get done and you're like, I killed it today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's yoga.
Uh-huh.
That is yoga. It is when you can unite your mind and your body and your heart and just be in the same place and experience presence and wonder, and, you know, and you get that in a yoga practice, you're led through breath and mindfulness and movement. And so you're just so connected that nothing else matters. There's such a relief that comes out on the other end, you know, or being on the soccer field, that intensity of focus and this is my job and I got to do this. And then you come off and it's like, woo, relief. Being on a mountain, snowboarding, you know, you're focused on it because, wow, look at where I am. And okay, I do have to focus because this is kind of hard. And, you know, and you come out of that, there's such a relief on the other side of that type of like focus.
Yeah. Well, and you get your heart rate is pumping, and you know, and mountain biking, you know, your heart rate is going. It's hot here in Las Vegas, and you're pouring down with sweat, but the adrenaline's rolling because you're rolling downhill at fast speeds, and you just feel it when you get done. It's like that release. You got to release that energy that was all bound up, and you just feel like loose.
Yeah. And it's so important for the human body. It is so important because everything that we experience in life has to be processed through the human body. So everything you take in with your eyes, everything you listen to, everything you smell, every interaction you have with another person, every word that you think about thinking, everything that you think, it has to go through your tissues. Mm-hmm. And so if you're not finding a way to express it, you know, adrenaline, that's why we love adrenaline, is because adrenaline kind of gives us this feeling of kind of pulling all that tension that we've built up, all that things we've downloaded, kind of, it helps pull it out of our system. Mm-hmm. But if we don't give all that stuff, all that input that we take in, somehow some sort of release, get it out of our body, sweat, move, breathe, whatever that is, it builds up.
Get all
and then you get really tense and you get really like stagnant and just like, you know, physically, mentally, emotionally. And so that release is so important.
I was watching a guy in the DMV the other day, and the way that he was moving, you know, he looked unhealthy, but you could see he's just locked up, you know, and just moving so slow. And it's just like, you know, just stretch out and like, you know, exercise. And like every time I get back into the gym, and I'm one of those guys that I'll go to the gym and I'll hit it hard, and then I'll stop. You know, and every time I'm in the gym for that like period of 3 or 4 months, you just feel great every night. You get done and you're like, yeah, great.
Yeah.
And then every time you stop, you're like, the hell did I stop? And you think about it for like 4 months until you talk yourself back into going again. You know,
she's laughing because she's heard this story before.
Sounds like somebody I know.
Where are we going with that?
Yoga.
Oh, yoga. So,
yoga.
So at that same time, I took a first yoga class. I had this astrologist that recommended that I take yoga. So I started taking more yoga. And then I had like 2 other instances where people were like, hey, you should become a yoga teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And I had just started doing yoga. Like this was a new thing for me, but I knew I liked it. I also found it challenging. I also was really curious about it because I'm like, man, why does this feel like soccer? Like, like what is this? Like
was it
this
like
amazing drug of yoga? I'm like, I want more.
Was it the balancing poses? Was it like doing a headstand?
It wasn't. I loved the challenge of going upside down, the challenge of arm balancing poses, the challenge of the asana, some of the more difficult asana. But most importantly, I loved what it did to my head, like my brain, my mental, my whole life. I talked about being, Mike. I talked about being an adrenaline junkie. And when I played soccer, I loved it, but I had a really hard time honing in. I have a lot of energy, and to hone in my energy and to be able to focus and direct it to be a little more specific and effective the way I want to be. Whereas on the soccer field, I could be, like I said, I was a really aggressive player. I tended to be a little sporadic, and no one really knew, what was Jessi going to do today? Oh, she's just going to be crazy.
I was going to say, it's almost like you could have been in like a karate expert.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right?
I just, I didn't know what to do. I had all this energy. And so I'm just going to run as fast.
Just like, you kick somebody.
Yeah. And just like.
She said that before.
Yeah.
Nice.
Heard her say that. I could just kick something. I just want to kick something.
Yeah. And like, I still get that way. I still have that energy, that like aggressiveness within me. But I didn't have, yoga started to give me these skills of like, okay, now I knew it was a power.
The
like
tools.
Now I can,
harness it
and then direct it in such a more specific way. And I found that very intriguing. I was like, ooh, this is power. Like that's what I started thinking. Like, I know I have energy, and I know I want to do things with my life, but
power over yourself, or just power in the world,
myself.
or
just over myself, of over my thoughts and the way I thought about things.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of all this physical energy that felt very like outward, like, oh, I need to run fast, or I need to go kick something, or I need to go sing at the top of my lungs, now instead I could, let me sit with that. I could sit with it. And as I sit, now I can, as I learned, yoga started to teach me, okay, sit with your energy. You don't have to go run and kick. You don't have to go yell. You don't have to go express yourself. Like, sit with it, harness it, cultivate it, and let's see what comes out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was such a powerful experience.
Interesting.
So I started to get, kind of that feeling. And then not long after that, and at the same time, I have this internship in LA. I'm like, okay, I'm going to be in the music industry. I'm going to do this. And I have all these ideas about I'm going to be a businesswoman and work in an office. And then also thinking like, oh, I hate being in an office. Like, being indoors all day really sucks. I was just like all these things. I'm in this time in my life. And then I'm also working as a cocktail server at the same time at 2 different restaurants. I kept myself very busy. And then someone that I worked with at the restaurant told me, hey, my girlfriend just opened this yoga studio. You should go talk to her. And I'm like, oh, interesting. And then I happened to go take one of her classes. Turns out she does yoga teacher trainings. Turns out she just opened this studio and also needs marketing help for her studio. So I was able to trade my skills in marketing and PR to be able to do my first yoga teacher training. And
like a glove.
Yeah. And that's how it started.
Perfect fit, huh?
It really was. And that's the other thing is like, I just started doing yoga, and then all these doors started.
It's amazing how that
up.
happens.
It's amazing. And you have to listen when things like that happen.
Definitely.
Like you have to, I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know I wanted to be a yoga teacher, but someone said the only way to learn more about this thing called yoga, this amazing thing that I'm very curious about, is to do a yoga teacher training. And so I'm like, okay, well, that's the next step, right?
Yeah.
Oh, well, here it is laid out in front of me. Might as well do that. And then it was just a snowball effect.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. It's you made that point. If you hear it, if it's telling you, do it. Don't pass that up. Don't think, oh, it's just, this is a random scenario where this happened, or this is coincidence. If it happens that way, follow that path.
Yeah.
There's so many times in this business where, back in the early 2000s, we ended up buying this. There was this company that was for sale, and we weren't in the fabrication business. We were only in the I&D business, installation and dismantle. So we were setting things up, tearing them down, but we didn't really build anything. And we were setting up and tearing down things for this other company that decided they were selling their business. And we were like really interested in that. That'd be cool. We want to build stuff. I want to build stuff. I love to create things, right? And it just so happened that the guy that was selling the business didn't want to be a business owner anymore. He just wanted to work. He just wanted to build, and he loved to build. So he said, why don't you buy my business and hire me, and I'll come teach you guys how to build.
Wow.
Right. And it was just a matter of circumstances that happened. But that was the first time I saw it in my business, that pay attention to what's going on here.
Go towards
because
it.
there's something happening here, and you just got to follow it. Just follow it.
Yeah.
And that's happened in this business. And every time I followed it, it became another success, another part of the cake that just keeps getting topped on top of. So,
and you got to be able, I have a question then. Do you feel like that was easy for you to kind of trust following those things? Like it just felt right.
It was the only option.
The only option.
Yeah, it was the only option. Like I can't walk away from this. I have to go this direction.
Yeah.
And, and I've got, at the time I've got, 2 little kids, married for a few years, and, struggling, but that was the way that we had to go. And I, of course would talk to Melissa about it and say, hey, there's this opportunity, and she's all, are you sure you want to go and do that? And I'm like, yeah, I don't think I can't. I have to go and do it.
Yeah.
I have to go and do it. I mean, same thing with this podcast. We were like, I don't care what it turns out to be. We have to do this. We keep talking about it, but there's just something that says we have to do it. We just have to do it. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But we just do.
Yep.
You got to follow those things. It's so important.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's really important. That's why I tell people, when people have like a really specific way, like they see their life, like, oh, well, then it's going to be like this. And then at this age, I need to have this done. Da, 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 da. It's just like, ooh, maybe just like, be open to any you never know what's going to happen.
Never know what's going to happen. I'd rather it that way. I'm a Sagittarius, so I love change, right? So, I want.
Wait, did you just reference your sign?
Yeah, oh yeah,
yeah, he did.
Oh yeah, I've pretty much always lived by that. Yeah,
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
It's funny because Melissa and I are both Sagittarius. I'm Sagittarius on a Scorpio cusp.
Ooh.
So, but I like the idea of change. I like the idea of, I'm not sure what's going to happen tomorrow, but I'm running towards it when it comes to me, Yeah. And it's like people come and ask me about, we have jobs that are going on, and we have a lot of people here that handle the organization of those jobs, right? They create the files, they put everything together in the packets, right? They organize with the client and get all of those things. I don't even want to know about that until it's there, right? And the night before, I'll grab the folder and I'll go through and research and learn about everything that I need to know about this job, and I'll go in and hit the ground running the next day. And I'll follow that job till it's complete and it's done. And I'm like, that one's done. On to the next one.
Yeah.
Where's the next file? So that's the way I like things. I'd rather the surprise. I think I work better under a surprise and under pressure than I do under organization. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you need that. It seems like there's especially as your idea and your business grows, you got to have those people who are really good at the organization, and then you got to know your strengths, and that really helps. So it's like,
well, going back to when you mentioned when we were dealing with COVID, right? And we're standing out in the back, and we got the stage out in the back, and you're like, dude, we should throw some concerts back here. And it's just like,
yeah,
we should throw concerts back here.
Yeah.
you know? And it's like, wow, what an adventure.
Yeah.
I wonder how we throw concerts back here. I wonder how we live stream things. Let's do this. This
Nice.
sounds exciting. It's like an adventure. It's like freaking Lord of the Rings. Like, let me grab my
The quest.
Hobbit because we're leaving.
It's the side quests turn into the main quests sometimes.
Totally,
you know?
man. Totally.
And so your side quest was yoga teacher training, essentially.
Yeah.
And then it somewhat became
Your main
a
quest.
main quest.
Well, once I became a yoga teacher, it was pretty apparent to me, one, that I was really good at it.
Mm-hmm.
And two, that
I can vouch for that too, because I've taken some of those trainings and you're very good at
I
teaching.
love it.
even-
I feel so blessed that I landed here. Like
Yeah.
it still like blows my mind. I'm just like, how did I get here? And I'm, you know, it was something that I didn't know I could turn into an artistry, you know, like, cause I at my deep core, I am an artist. And so, and I always want to find ways to express myself in whatever, you know, way that is. But then something like landed in my lap that I was able to turn into my career. And at the same time, also, I can be an artist with it. I can really make it my own.
Mhm.
I'm also able to like help people, you know, and that's one thing, you know, about being an artist is like, you also have a way of like helping others. Like it's a way
Yeah.
to connect you to other people. So I just feel so blessed that I like landed here. I'm like, wow, how did I get here? This is really cool.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
you had the opportunity to work with the NBA.
I worked
The
with
EYBL.
EYBL tournaments. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That,
Explain that. What is EBYL?
So when I first became a yoga teacher, so that first yoga teacher training, I started working with the studio, and then I started teaching right away. It was interesting. That's just side story, but another injury, physical injury that I had during my yoga teacher training.
Is this a snowboarding injury?
Yeah.
Oh, buckle up.
Buckle up.
I'm
Buckle
in
up,
my,
baby.
I'll make it quick, I promise.
No.
But it just kind of
no.
ties in.
Yeah.
The universe is always sending us signs, and it's important to listen. And sometimes those signs are not signs that you want, like good sign, like you could call like a quote unquote good sign, but you gotta see what's in front of you. These are the cards that have been dealt, and let's see where they point. So I start doing this yoga teacher training. I'm also working 2 restaurant jobs. I'm also still working in LA, and now I'm thinking about becoming a yoga teacher. You know, now there's a lot happening. And I go on this snowboarding trip as a way to like, oh, let me just like take a weekend off and go snowboarding. And I end up breaking my face. So I smashed my face on the back of someone's head, and I broke my maxilla, these 2 cheekbones right here.
Holy shit.
So the front of my face, and I broke my nose, of course, but my front of my face was kind of like hanging down like this.
Oh, no.
And so I come back. I had to fly back from Tahoe.
How did this happen?
Well, me and a friend were like snowboarding down the mountain, and we were kind of racing, because that's sometimes what you do. You're like, all right, ready?
Oh, yeah.
I'll meet you at the bottom.
You do. All
And
day
so-
long.
We're racing. And we're in Tahoe. So it's a lot of, it's big
Yeah.
mountains. And I was right behind him, and he like goes off this little jump, and I knew the jump was there. I don't think he did. So he kind of fell off the end of it. And
Mhm.
I was right behind him. Probably I was too close, but I was right
Clearly.
behind him, and I was ready to just kind of swerve around him, but I knew the jump was there. So I hit it kind of hard.
Uh-huh.
At the same time, he was trying to push himself up, because you don't want to lay on the ground, you know,
Yeah,
when you
not
fall.
over on the other side of a jump.
not on
Yeah,
the
you're
other side.
crawling
You
out of the
need
way
to get up.
quick.
So he kind of got up at the same time I was coming down, and I
Uh-huh.
smashed my face on the back of his head.
Oh, shit.
He
The
got a-
helmet. Yeah.
No, neither of us had a helmet.
Oh.
That's the
If-
problem.
Also, but if one of us did and one of us didn't, I think the other person would have been dead.
Yeah.
So that, it was
Yeah.
kind of good. Either both of us needed it. We
Oh.
definitely both needed helmets.
Yeah.
I now wear a helmet.
But I mean, your face would have, because a snowboard helmet doesn't cover your face. It covers your forehead.
but
right?
maybe it would.
I mean,
yeah.
I have goggles, my helmet,
Yeah.
I learned how to ride with a helmet many years ago.
Oh yeah. Now
I
I wear a
hated it
helmet.
at first,
I hated
but-
it at first too, but
yeah.
after that instance,
So
I
worth
definitely
it now.
did.
Yeah.
Plus,
Plus,
but
you
yeah.
get your headphones in there.
Yeah, I had my headphones. I was like
Yeah.
blasting music, going
Uh-huh.
down. I was having a great time. And smashed my face, made my way down. I flew back home the next day because I got a CT scan at the ER in Tahoe. They
Okay.
told me what had happened. my insurance was back in Southern California. So I was like, there's nothing I could do up here. So I flew home the next day and then got all the things handled.
She
But at this
she
time-
got on
your
the
face is
plane.
all broken
Oh, it
and
was
shit. And you're
flying,
like,
going up in,
you're just
in
sitting
altitude.
there and your cheeks are sitting in your lap.
They gave me some Percocets. So I like took my Percocet
okay.
and then I just
Yeah,
kind of
that'll
like
do it.
barely made my way.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy.
That was an extreme injury. That was pretty intense.
Yeah.
But anyways, after that, in order to fix it, I've had to have my jaw wired shut. So they wired my jaw shut for 5 weeks in order to heal that. But at the same
Have
time,
you met Adrian?
yeah, I was like, we have that in common.
Right.
We both had that injury. I think he broke his jaw though.
You have steel plates. In your
Yeah, they
cheeks,
put
right?
steel plates. So I have like 5 or 6 steel plates in my cheeks.
Wow.
going
No
across like
kidding,
that.
huh?
Yeah.
Wow. You can't even tell. They did a good job. Yeah. Thank those
amazing.
doctors.
Right, they did. It's kind of crazy because they go up through your upper lip, so they peel
Really?
your face back, and they have to go in like this in order to reattach.
Wow.
So I have a big scar. I could feel it on the roof of my mouth.
Oh, really?
that goes all the
okay.
way
So
across.
they just cut. That's
They
where
cut like underneath, and went through.
Wow.
But then my jaw is wired shut, and I was in a weird place. Like I was living in an apartment, but I had given my 30 days, and when I came back from Tahoe, I was going to move. So I also was kind of okay in that realm. I just
I
kind
have a
of
lot of stuff going on.
I had a lot of stuff going on.
Moving for job, doing trainings, snowboarding accidents.
This is the thing, though, is
Yeah.
that the universe gives you signs. I had all this
Uh-huh.
stuff going on, and the universe was like, stop what you're doing.
Yeah.
You literally can't do anything now.
hmm
I was like this. And my
Yeah.
jaw is wired shut. I feel like shit. And what I could do was focus on my yoga teacher training.
Yeah.
So it was a weird time where I'm like, okay, like it really literally felt like, okay, I knew it. I was like, the universe is telling me to stop. The universe is telling me to like reprioritize, look at all these things I'm doing. I had to move back home with my mom. I
Yeah.
was like, Mommy, take care of me. And she took care of me. And I had to focus on yoga. I was like, and I couldn't do too much and then I would get really excited and then I'd be, and I couldn't breathe. So,
Get me a bag.
yeah, it was crazy. It's a crazy injury. It's really torturous. It's very
Yeah.
torturous. So I had to focus on yoga.
Didn't you?
No, I didn't have to have my jaw wired shut the second time. I just kind of fractured a couple bones here and here.
Jeez, what the hell happened that time?
That time there was a lot of tequila involved.
Oh,
And
right.
Yeah, but anyways,
Yeah.
but that wasn't nearly as bad.
So let's go back to when your jaw was wired shut and you said you had to focus on your yoga teacher training. From an outside perspective, it seems like that really gave you a chance to dive into the mental aspect of yoga,
Absolutely.
because that's where where you had to read and really see things. And then because you couldn't move around too much and do the physical things, you almost had to find solace in this new information that you were getting from reading.
Mhm.
Can
Am
you
I-
tell
am I
that
right
he
about-
listens to you? See how sweet that is.
Yeah.
That is so sweet.
Well, that's the first, thinking about like learning that actually,
Yeah.
it's like, it's that makes sense to why it really stuck. Like for me, when I first learned how to read classical or sheet music,
Mhm.
I had dislocated my shoulder playing football in high school, and I couldn't play guitar at LVA in the classroom. I had my arm like this, so I had to. I was struggling. I couldn't read music, and I was in the beginning class, but because I couldn't read, I would just look at the sheet music and then listen to everybody else playing,
Mhm.
and that's when it was like, everything, those movements with the dots are starting to make sense now.
Because you took away this portion of it, and
took
now you
away
have
the
another
physical.
sensory organ that
Yeah.
can focus on what you needed to focus on. That's incredible too.
Yeah. Really interesting. So then,
But it's amazing how like you get pointed in a direction where it's like you're going in all these million different directions, and then something happens that's like, nope, focus here.
Mhm.
And you have to listen to that when that happens. It's like, no, okay, now you can't talk. So you just have to listen.
Yeah.
And it really was a lesson of, okay, like stop what I'm doing and just listen. And that's kind of, I think that honestly, having that injury and being where that kind of led me in, okay, I'm just going to do this now.
Yeah.
I still worked a couple restaurant jobs because I like the money, but I definitely started to focus on a different path.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you healed from that. You went right into teaching yoga, and then you were explaining these opportunities just started coming to you, falling in your laps, literally.
Yeah, I was really lucky. The woman that I learned, did my first yoga teacher training, Stella, who I still work with to this day. She saw that I was eager and that I was good at it. And she had a lot on her plate, and she had all these, she just opened up this studio and had these outside gigs, like yoga gigs, that she needed somebody else to take over. And so she started giving to me, just like throwing me in the fire. And at first, really my kind of type A control, like, I need a plan. I'm not ready. And she's like, no, you're fine. Just go do it. And I'm like, okay. So then I just got thrown into all these random jobs. I started working with a lot of
Muscle Milk, right?
No, that wasn't through Stella. That was something else.
Oh,
so,
okay.
I started teaching, and that's the way you become good at anything. You just have to start doing it. Like you got to get over the fear of, I'm not good at it. I'm going to mess up. And it really helps when you have a mentor who's like, no, go. Like, I trust you. Here you go.
One of my favorite lines is you just do it by doing it.
You do it by doing it. Absolutely. Yeah. And that was really good for me. It was really good to kind of get thrown in the fire right away. And I loved it. And so I kept doing it. I started getting paid to teach, like right away. I started getting paid to teach. And then, as I started to find my own voice as a teacher and find my own jobs.
Are you realizing at this point that this is your calling? Or are you still just like, I'm a yoga teacher?
No, I was definitely like, for the first time, I was like, wow, this is something I can make money at that I really like doing.
Yeah.
And it feels really good. Like
it doesn't hurt.
It doesn't hurt my body.
Yeah.
And also I'm not working for somebody that I don't respect, like, wow, I could like work for myself. What a weird concept. Didn't know and at the time
never occurred to you.
I wasn't thinking of starting my own business, but you kind of have to start reaching out for jobs. You're kind of like on your own, and you get hired by gyms or studios. That's how you start. But it was all just working so organically. And it felt really good. And I really enjoyed doing it. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to keep doing this. And that led into, becoming a personal trainer. Then I was like, okay, well, but then I wanted to focus on with my yoga. I wanted to do yoga for athletes because that was another big revelation. I was kind of upset. Like, why didn't anybody teach me yoga when I was playing soccer? Because it would have really helped my back pain. It would have really helped me be able to focus and harness, all this energy and talent that I had on the soccer field really could have been like focused and streamlined. Imagine how good of a soccer player I would have been if I was doing yoga. Like that kept occurring to me. So I wanted to somehow start to create, how could I share yoga with young athletes? So I started trying to, looking on Craigslist for jobs and stuff like that. And I found some guy up in Northern California that was starting a company called Maximum Performance Yoga, MPY. And he was looking for a yoga teacher to come on and help him build out his curriculum, Yoga for Athletes curriculum. So I started working with him and another yoga teacher, and we created a Yoga for Athletes teaching manual. And we ran Yoga for Athletes, and right away, like I just became a yoga teacher, and now I wrote a teaching manual specifically for athletes. And then I started.
So were you studying yoga to kind of figure all this out? And it's like you just embraced this and just like soaked all of this in? Or was it a natural thing for you? A little bit of both?
I'm a pretty good student. So, and especially if I'm.
So you're doing your homework then?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a good student. Especially something that I'm really curious about. And once I started learning about how the human body works and how to align the skeleton and use the muscles to support the skeleton, I just started to nerd out on it. And one of my favorite things about my yoga teacher training was the anatomy, like and luckily I had an amazing, thank you, April, an amazing anatomy teacher. So usually in yoga teacher trainings, you have, kind of someone that focuses on the anatomy part. And she was an anatomy nerd, and she really got me excited about it. So then I started to dive deep into anatomy. I did like a 6-month anatomy kinesiology intensive. We did like this whole long
What's
anatomy program.
kinesiology?
The movement part of the body. So
Okay.
anatomy is like the
Kinetics.
structures, and kinesiology is like how they function.
Okay.
So I did a whole specialized program in that. And then that kind of led me into this maximum performance yoga thing, developing this curriculum. It didn't all happen like right away. It was definitely steps.
Mhm.
But so I did that, and I did trainings, in Austin, Texas. I did trainings in Northern California. I did teaching.
So now you're traveling and
Now I'm
teaching.
traveling and teaching. And I was traveling and teaching yoga for athletes. It turned out that
Who were you teaching at that point?
people that wanted to learn how to teach yoga for athletes.
Okay. All right. So you're teaching people who want to teach yoga to athletes.
Yep. We
Okay.
were marketing it as this is a specialized program. It was a weekend thing. It was like,
Mhm.
I think we did 1 or 2 days. And so we just advertised it in different markets. So like Austin, Texas was one, Northern California was another. And I think we did one other someplace else. But we marketed it as this is a training for, people that are already yoga teachers,
Mhm.
but now they want to learn how to apply yoga and specifically for athletes.
I see.
So it was a small training, not as extensive as like a yoga teacher training. Like these are people that already understood yoga and the basics,
Mhm.
and now they were getting like a specialized training.
Okay.
So that's kind of how that started. And then I got that kind of petered out. That was a whole thing. That was a business learning experience with that guy. But
Oh, the ups and downs of entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
right?
And the
You
people
live and you
meet.
learn.
Yeah.
But it all happens for a reason. If I didn't go through that, then
Well,
that
you learn all of this content, right? You learn all of these things throughout that process. And you're like, now I could take all of those things that I learned, I can apply it with this. And then you're putting all of these different facets together. You're locking all of these. I know marketing, right?
Yeah.
And I know yoga training, and I know this and I know that. And you're locking it all together. And I have the drive. And, once you start to create this mold of something, right?
Yeah. And now I've learned as running my own business is just over the years, you get excited about something. So you kind of look for people that are in that industry thinking that, oh, well, I kind of like what you're doing. You have a great idea. Let me hop on and help you with your idea. But they're not you. And what happens sometimes is they can see your talents and they take your talents, they take the good things, and then you don't get paid for it or you don't get recognition for it. And so that has happened to me several times where I invested all this because I'm excited about it and I love it and I'm good at it. And not knowing like, oh, I should probably have a contract before I write this, spend hours writing this curriculum, or I should probably get paid up front before I spend hours
Right.
travel the country. Oh, I probably shouldn't pay for my own flight. Like this person who said that they're going to reimburse me. You
Yes.
learn these things after the fact where you're like, oh, I never got paid for that.
Mhm.
And I just handed off all this knowledge that I have to somebody else. Now somebody else owns that because it's not mine.
Right.
I created it for them.
Yeah.
And, now I it was a
You
lot,
live and
a
you
lot of
learn.
lessons.
You
You
live
live
and
and
you
you
learn.
learn,
You've created
Mhm.
contracts for
Yeah.
that kind of
Yeah. Now I'm like, okay, there's a smarter business way to do this. Like,
It's such
It's
a
terrible
fine
that they're-
balance.
go
It's
ahead.
such a fine balance of, like as a songwriter, for instance, you meet somebody and it's like, man, we're vibing and we're talking about this thing and we just kind of jammed an idea. It's nothing right now,
Yeah.
but I just sang this really cool hook, and then you kind of you're wondering, you don't want to be like, hey man, also, hey, before we go forward, just sign this
Yeah.
contract right now, because then it's
Right.
like, oh, dude, I don't get out of here,
It's hard
or
to have that business in the middle of
it's a
creative,
very
right?
fine, and it comes with experience to where you can still be organic
Mhm.
and in the moment and in the passion of creating, but also protect everyone involved. It's
The one piece of advice that I would give to that, and I do this really up front with vendors, is I just say it up front before we even get into the conversation.
what's the budget?
well, yeah, like what's the budget? Or it's like, okay, we don't do a lot of subcontracting of people. Most of our work is done by employees that are full-time employees here. But we do come across where we subcontract guys out. And I tell them right up front, like, you're going to have to sign, a non-compete, non-disclosure agreement with us before we can move forward on this. And I send them those agreements over. Before I did that, it always became a problem, right? And it always will become a problem. If you think it's going to become a problem, just know that it's always going to become a problem, especially when it comes down to business and money. Because at the end of the day, you think it's worth something, and I guarantee you the other guy, he thinks it's worth something different.
Right.
I've talked to some of the people that have co-wrote with you, and they've said, well, I wrote a lot of that song. And I said, okay, that's great. I said, but remember and understand this, that song would have gone nowhere without these guys being part of it, because they're the engine that pushes that song down the tracks.
Yeah.
So you can either take the percentage, or there could be nothing there at all.
Yeah.
That's up to you, what you guys want to do.
And
how you guys want to work that out.
It's funny you bring that up too, and we won't go too far into it, but it ties into the balance of when you're, working with somebody. There's also that level of, when you've had those conversations with those guys, and I'm pretty sure I know who you're talking about, what we're talking about here without having to say it, is, there's also that balance in the moment of, hey man, I respect you. Okay. Yeah. Keep going with your idea, instead of like, oh, hold on now, let me catch up and let me put my idea on it too.
Right.
And then that goes to bite you in the butt of like, hey man, yeah, come on. I'll keep going. Keep flowing on it. Keep riffing on it. And then then when it comes down to it, it's like, oh dude, I wrote most of that song. Like, hold on, man.
We all wrote it.
We were letting you flow. We were in on it together, so it's a very complicated thing.
That's why before you even get into the creative aspect of it, is having the contract done up front. It's like, no matter what happens in this room today, this is what the contract is.
It's so true, because
you need to have that clarity.
Right.
If it can go wrong, if it can go sideways, it very well will go sideways.
It will go sideways. And listen,
it's
a lot less uncomfortable talking about that up front than talking about it after the fact.
Yeah.
Because again, what you think is a percentage of how much creative you put into it, I guarantee the other guy thinks that he probably put more.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of, he what he thinks and what you think. Right. So you get that out of the way. And it's like, cool. Now we can sit down and really get creative without having to worry about that. Because as you guys are creating, you're sitting there. I know you're sitting there thinking like, where is this going to go if I push this guy to, drop more content? Is this guy going to think he owns the song?
Yeah.
It's out of the way. And now you can just focus on freedom,
totally.
To write.
So were you able to grab back some of your like intellectual property in essence? Like when you wrote out these trainings, was it like the sequences? How do you create your own content and your own intellectual properties within the yoga space?
That's like a whole nother conversation, but
for the maximum movement and your curriculum.
Well, that I kind of had to just leave that where it was and leave that behind. But what that experience then led me into was working the EYBL tournaments.
Oh.
So that, then I started to really market myself as a yoga for athletes specialist. So I started to work with young athletes one-on-one. Parents would hire me to train their kids. I worked with a young golfer for many years, a basketball player for many years. And then I got hired by Muscle Milk or Cytosport to work the EYBL tournaments. And so the EYBL tournaments are a tournament for basketball tournaments for kids that are being recruited for colleges.
Prospects.
So it's they're prospects, and the NBA puts a lot of money into this string of tournaments that are, mostly in the Midwest, East Coast areas, like Georgia. They're kind of all over. Some in Texas. I guess they're kind of all over. But every summer, there's the EYBL tournaments. So these club basketball teams or coaches put together a team to come compete at the EYBL. And it really is a showcase for all these young basketball players to get recruited for all the college recruits are there. It also is.
Alex, can you pull that up?
EYBL.
EYBL.
It's the Elite Youth Basketball League.
Okay.
So I got hired as Cytosport. Muscle Milk was a big sponsor of that tournament. So for 3 summers, I traveled with the Muscle Milk team, and I had foam rollers and straps and mats. And at every tournament, I would set up a big recovery section. And I would roll out the mats, and I had foam rollers. And then I would have either one-on-one with kids would come by, and I would stretch them or show them how to stretch, show them how to use a foam roller. Or sometimes a coach would be like, hey, can I book you at this time? We got a game at this time, blah, blah, or like maybe pregame or postgame. And then the whole team would come over, and I would train. I would, do stretching, prehab, rehab, or, like pre or post stretching and, recovery skills. Yeah.
Okay.
So I did that, and that was really fun. So I got to travel the country, go to all these cool places.
And Muscle Milk is paying you. Cytosport's paying you at this
paying
point.
me for that one. And I was just the recovery specialist.
And I'm assuming that they paid for your travel.
They did. That was an awesome gig. That was that was a great gig. See that first, my experience with, that's the EYBL.
Mm-hmm.
It's really cool. It's a really cool tournament, and it was really fun to be a part of, but that was kind of like my experience with the yoga for athletes, and I would, show the guys how to stretch, kind of the amazement that I had. I'm like, man, if only someone told me how to stretch and do yoga and breathe, that would make me such a better athlete. So I was really trying to find a way to communicate with these high school kids of like,
well, I mean, you went through the experience.
I did.
Too,
and I would
right?
share that. I would share that with them. Like, hey guys, I was a college athlete. Like these skills work. Yeah. And if you just do this, I promise you it's going to make you a better athlete. And I was really trying to ingrain that in their brains. And I was also trying to figure out, okay, like how do I talk to these high school? They're all guys. They're all males. So it was like, it was also a different experience of like, okay. And a lot of them are like 6'6" and they're huge. And I'm
taller,
like, come on, this will help. Like you got to stretch your hamstrings. We don't want to pull something,
Well, I mean, you're pretty persuasive with that too. I think you have a natural talent and ability to teach people how to do things. And you sound like at least you know what you're talking about. So
I do know what I'm talking about.
Right. I mean, and that regardless if you do or not, you sound like you do. And that's really more important than actually knowing, right?
It is. It just but that was a great experience of being able to be around athletes. And I'm like, okay, this is what I wanted. I wanted to teach athletes how to do yoga. And here I am. I have this opportunity. And how can I be the most effective? And it was a wonderful, those traveling around, that was a great experience of like, okay, how do I communicate this quickly?
And more than a handful of those guys.
Like they don't want to meditate. They don't want to this is not a yoga class. That's not what I'm doing.
Right.
This is how do I take the main pieces of like breath, mobility, stretching, and like zip it up in 5 minutes, make you understand how important this is, So that was a really good learning experience.
So is that something that that they get to walk away with and utilize on a daily basis? You teach them this, quick, yoga program that they can do as part of their training process. Is that what you were teaching them? Yeah.
Teaching them certain stretches they could do. Really whatever they needed. And my hope was that then they would take that with them.
Some of those guys went to the pros too.
Yeah, some of them. I see them on TV. I see them playing at college, or I see them. A couple of them are playing in the NBA.
Yeah.
Cool.
So that was really good. Not that they ever would remember, and maybe they remember me, but maybe my hope is maybe
they'll be watching this right now.
I just hope
say hi, wave to them, and say hello.
My hope is that maybe when they went off to college or they went off to the pros, that if there was a yoga teacher or a yoga class, that maybe their ears would perk up a little bit. Like they'd be like, oh wait, that's right. Like I kind of liked that. Like, oh, that did help me. Let me go try that again. You know, like that was my only hope, is like, let me expose them. Like I was not exposed to this at all until after, you know, and I'm like, if someone would have exposed me and told, you know, like I said, I would have been all over it.
Sure.
Because I want to be I want to be the best I could be.
Yeah, it's such a toolbox.
And a lot of those kids were in pain. A lot of them would come over like, oh, my back, oh, my hip. Like, I'm like, okay, this is what you need. I know exactly what you need. This hip's stuck. Okay, we're going to go like this. We're going to da-da-da-da. Let me, you know, like I'm like a mechanic, like showing them, okay, this is the tool. And the tool is the stretch. Let me show you. They're going to put it in this position. You're going to hold it. You're going to breathe like this. Okay, now you're, you know, and
So you're understanding how all the muscle groups work, how they work together, how we release the tension of those things when they're balled up.
Yeah. And it's pretty obvious when you go from sport to sport. And this is also what I developed when I developed that Yoga for Athletes curriculum. Because when you go from sport to sport, it's all repetitive motion. So if you look at a soccer player and you understand what a soccer player does on the field, you have an idea of these are the exercises that they need, or these are the yoga asana, which are yoga poses that they could use. So the curriculum was like, okay, think about the sport, think about what they need, think about what poses would go with that. And now here's a sequence of poses that's like yoga for soccer.
Okay, very cool. Yeah.
Basketball, right? Okay, I understand this. I know that basketball players tend to have tight hamstrings. They had, you know, like this lower backs tend to hurt. They're on a hard floor. That's going to change, you know. So now I start thinking about the sport. Okay, now how can I pull in yoga poses that are specifically going to help them for that sport? Right. And so I got really good at that, really good and really quick at that. So now I know
you're focusing in on all the little facets that work for each individual sport.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Because every sport has pretty much repetitive, some sort of repetitive motion.
Yeah.
And you can kind
baseball, you're swinging a bat, right?
You can prescribe,
a bat, you're throwing a ball.
Yeah.
You know?
What is the motion to score the point?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That is the motion. Yeah.
You know, and then it's like, you know, what exercises do you need to do to, one, reinforce that movement so they can be really good at it. And then two, also how to balance the body like the opposite way, because they're doing the same thing. It was like my hip. I'm doing the same thing over and over again. What I needed to do was start working my other hip and start, you know, balancing it out. I kind of, there's both ways, you know? So as a trainer and a body worker, that's my job, is to look at someone's body, talk to them about what they do in their day-to-day life, and start to prescribe movement or soft tissue release massage therapy that will help reinforce what they already do so that they're stronger in it, and then also balance it so that they don't get pulled in such an imbalance that it causes pain.
So are you teaching them how to massage themselves, or are you providing them massage therapy, or both?
Both. Okay. Both. Most of the time it's teaching people how to do it themselves, because a lot of it you can do yourself.
Right.
And not everybody can go get a massage every week. I mean, if I could go get a massage every week, I would totally do that.
I know, right? Yeah.
But we can't all do that. We can't all afford that, and we don't have the time for that. So there is a lot of self-massage techniques that you can do at home with very simple, cheap tools that make a very big difference.
Do these massage guns work?
Yes, it just depends. I've learned a lot about like massage guns, and there's a difference. The cheaper guns, they vibrate. Yeah. Vibration stimulates muscle. Okay. So it's going to activate. It depends what you want to do. So when made those the cheaper kind of vibrating guns, which I
and when you say cheap, that's how much? $40? Is that a cheap gun? $100?
Yeah,
is a cheap
$60, like under 100 for sure.
Okay, then over 100 is a different level of gun.
If you want. If you're trying to use it to activate muscle, maybe before you go work out, you want to get your glutes to fire. Vibration will be great.
Okay.
But if you're looking for, and what massage guns are advertised as, is a relaxation tool, right? To release muscle tension.
Yes.
Vibration's not going to do that. Okay. So you need percussion. So Theragun, right, is kind of like the leader in this. The Hyper Ice is a really good one also. Hypervolt.
Hypervolt.
Because
I can't remember which one I have, but it has a connection that goes onto it, and it can get hot or cold.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, awesome.
Yeah,
You probably have
That's a good one.
and it is percussion. Yeah,
That's a good one.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Was
Okay.
it like $500? It's probably a good one.
I want to say it was more like $200.
Yeah.
I'm guessing.
Yeah.
There's lots of different things out there, but that's the main thing when it comes to these massage guns. Vibration is different than percussion.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So if
See,
you're
this is
looking-
great info to know.
Yeah, it's
Totally.
things people don't
Totally.
know and
Yeah.
think about. And
Theragun may need to use this as a commercial.
Yeah.
And you're for hire, right?
Yeah.
well, I'm trying to get me a Theragun sponsorship.
Nice. There you go.
But I actually, that's on my list of YouTube videos that I need to make is explaining the
Yes.
massage guns. Because I did a whole, foam rolling is something that I recommend.
What's
to my
your
clients.
what's
Yeah,
your
you have a-
YouTube?
yeah, what is your YouTube
what's your
channel?
YouTube channel?
So my YouTube channel is Holistic Fitness Training. That's my YouTube channel.
Alex, pull that up, would you please?
What would we find on this channel here?
Lots of different things, stretching
123 videos,
exercises,
lots of information.
foam things about foam rolling, breath, meditation.
Look at
I
that.
kinda
Look
did
You
at
it
guys
those
all.
you have these
thumbnails.
backed up. You have this all backed up on somewhere, right? It's not just on YouTube, is it? You need to back all this stuff up. Like, holy crap, you have that many videos.
I have a lot
Make
of
sure to
videos.
back them up. Buy a hard drive.
Well, now I finally have a good. Now I'm getting better with my videos. I finally have like evolved and have a good.
Well, I
camera
mean, this
and a
looks
good
pretty
mic.
professional to me.
It's good. A lot of my videos
Hey,
are really
hey, Alex,
good.
why don't you hit that subscribe button there, man? Nice.
Boom.
There it is.
But
Everybody do that right now. I mean, everybody listen.
Yeah,
That's right.
I try to share a lot of things. a
Testimony.
lot
I'm doing
of-
that stretch before bedtime tonight.
Yes.
Well, what I
yes.
found was with my private clients that I work with, I would make them their own videos, like depending on what they needed, because that's just
Mhm.
the kind of trainer that I am. And like, oh, you need to stretch before bedtime. Okay, I'm going to create a video. And then I realized, why am I spending all this time creating and making a video for one person?
Mhm.
And so I was like, I need to start a YouTube channel. I need to just now when I have something for a client, I like put it up on my YouTube and I'm like, here's the link to the YouTube video that you need.
Mm.
And now I have a whole library of these types of videos
Right.
that
How are you promoting that library on YouTube? Or are you? Are you
I do YouTube
monetizing?
shorts.
Are you able to
I don't
monetize yet?
Right. I don't monetize yet.
Okay.
I've gone through like a whole kind of, I guess you could call it like a rebrand of my business over the
Mhm.
past 2 years,
Mhm.
which kind of organizing the back end, making sure I have systems and things in place that make sense and work for me. Because when I started my online business, it was very much like, okay, let me start doing this. Okay. And then, I wasn't thinking about long term.
Mhm.
And now I've been running my own business for about 4 years,
Well,
3.5 years.
It was a circumstance essentially of, the lockdowns.
Yeah.
Of-
Yeah.
Like I never thought, I
COVID.
never even considered running an online business
Mhm.
or running my own business. I was
Mhm.
working in LA. I was working at a really nice gym, because I became a personal trainer
You
and
got
then
busy in the yoga world.
in the yoga world. And then I also got into the Pilates world. That was a whole nother thing. I
Okay.
got this amazing opportunity with John Gary Fitness and Pilates to do all of the stop Pilates training. So mat, reformer, chair, I got to do it all. And I started learning about Pilates, and Pilates blew my mind. Yoga blew my mind. And then a couple years later, Pilates was this other like,
John Gary is like the Bruce Lee of Pilates.
he is, he's
Okay.
amazing.
Because I was
Right.
thinking like,
Is that fair?
like
Is that a
Beach
fair-
Body Works or
I mean,
whatever.
he
They're
would love to hear that.
You'd like
He
to
would
hear
love
that?
to hear that.
Yeah.
I went to his place one
Yeah,
time. It was
his
pretty
studio
cool.
in Long Beach was really cool. And I feel so blessed that like fell into my lap. He
Mhm.
hired me as a trainer and I was doing
Okay.
fitness classes for him. And then he liked how I taught and he was like, hey, you want to start teaching Pilates? I was like, I've never taken Pilates before. Again, in the same circumstance of like, well, I don't really know that much about Pilates.
So,
He was like, yeah. He's like, you'll be fine. You're
Yeah,
a great
you got
teacher.
it.
Why don't you just come in? You're going to do it. And I was like, okay, I might as well, again, hop on the opportunity. The Pilates training is a very expensive training. It's
Mhm.
extensive. It is a lot of anatomy and takes several months to complete. And so I got into that and I started teaching Pilates. And so that again, that really upped my prehab game. My also rehab, like being able to help people with injury, being able to help people who are in physical pain, having those Pilates skills. Pilates provides something that yoga didn't, at least the yoga physical part of yoga. Yoga's a lot of things, but the asana, which is what most people think of when they think of yoga, is limited in that sense of like rehab, I guess is a good way to put it.
Okay.
And then Pilates.
What's asana? Explain asana.
Asana. So yoga is a science that has been around for thousands of years, right? The first human, like, it has been around a long time. And it comes from the Vedas, which is one of the oldest texts in human history. And yoga is a science about self-realization. It really is a step-by-step blueprint to help you live a more peaceful and fulfilled life. That's what yoga is.
And that's exactly how you make a short.
Perfect.
So,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah.
And
Asana.
yeah, in the West, there's a lot of history when it comes to yoga. And that's probably a podcast for another time. But when yoga was brought here to the West, we definitely took the movement part, which is the asana, and we ran with it. We turned it into an exercise program.
Okay.
But
Turned it into a product.
we turned it into a product. And I'm grateful for it because it made yoga popular. And now more people, yoga is like a household name and people say it. And that's a great thing. But there's also a disservice there because yoga, there's a lot to it. The asana is 1/8. So
So there's 8 parts.
There's 8 parts.
Okay.
It's
what
an
are the
8-limbed
8
path.
parts
The
of
8
yoga?
Ooh. So it's the 8-limb path is
Okay.
where yoga comes from. Asana is one of those limbs. So if you think about it like a tree.
Okay.
Yoga, the word yoga means union, right? Bringing together, yoking together, bringing together mind, body, soul, creating this sense of union within yourself, right? So you have this tree with all these branches. Asana is one of those branches. Another branch is the yamas, which is observances of how to be in relationship with the world around you. So it's really how to be a good person, right? There's 5 yamas, there's 5. And then another branch is the niyamas, which are observances or practices for self-care, like how to be in right relationship with yourself. So that's another branch. Another branch is dharana, which are focus techniques, right? How to teach your mind to focus, right? And so there's a whole branch and practices of how to focus. And then there is pratyahara. Pratyahara is the branch of learning how to withdraw your senses. And the way we learn how to withdraw our senses is we actually learn how to tune into them. So you learn how to, a simple example is like learning how to sit or lay. And it's hard to sit still because, you want to twitch or a sound comes in or you think about something and you want to like react to it. But not to react, to understand that you have sensory input all the time and you don't have to react to it. So it's a practice of, and we start small. We start with little mindfulness practices, active relaxation techniques to teach yourself how to observe what you're sensing and not react to it. So that's pratyahara, that limb. It's kind of like learning how to, like, if you have all these antennas out, learning how to like pull the antennas that you don't need. And so you can just focus on one. Right. So it's this whole technique practice of that's pratyahara. You have dhyana, which is the state of meditation. And then you have samadhi. Samadhi is like the experience of nirvana, bliss, enlightenment.
Okay.
Did I name all 8?
I think.
I thought I was on 7.
Pranayama.
I was going to say, I'm on 7.
Oh, you're counting, John?
I had my hands like this
His
underneath
focus
the
is good.
camera.
The focus.
I know, he's good. Pranayama, how could I forget that? So those are your breathing techniques. Your breathing techniques. Pranayama, the word is not breath. It's learning how to harness your life force. That's what pranayama is. But we can think of it as using the breath to harness life force.
So those are the classes I think that I was taking then, right? That was breath core.
That's a part of it. Yeah, that what I did with breath core is I really tried to take something simple like your breath and try to solve a problem, which is core stability and strength, because they go hand in hand. So I tried to focus on just those 2 aspects of we all need stronger cores. I mean, even me as a soccer player, one thing I learned when I did Pilates is that I was strong. And yeah, I'm a lean person. You know, I have those genetics. I just tend to be lean. And so, yeah, sure, my abs look strong, but they weren't. I did not know how to stabilize. I did not understand how to stabilize my lumbar spine, my lower back.
So you're saying just because somebody has the physique doesn't mean they're strong.
Okay. Doesn't mean they understand how to stabilize their joints. That's a different aspect, and it takes actually deeper, different muscles. So I created
next time that buff dude tries to talk shit, I might just have to take that swing.
Never scared of the buff.
But often
he's a little slow.
But you take one of those big buff guys or big buff people, and you throw them into a Pilates class.
Yeah.
They're
gassed because their muscles are just starving oxygen, right?
Because our body works on two different energy systems. So our body has the like explosive, like really strong for a moment kind of energy system. And then it has an endurance system. So, and your muscles work that you can think of it like slow twitch versus fast twitch muscle fibers. But it's really important that you're training both systems, whether you're working with cardio or weight training, resistance training. You got to train your muscles to be strong and like burst, because sometimes you need that burst, right? You need that like, I got to push this couch, or I got to run away from this dog, or whatever. But we also need the endurance part. And the endurance part is, how do I make sure that my arm stabilizes in this socket? And I can hold it like that while I carry the groceries or while I carry my kid, right? Stabilize the joint and endure hours of whatever.
Yeah.
Right. And those are two different energy systems. They both need to be trained. When you see like a big buff bodybuilder, oftentimes they've been training that like burst system, and their endurance system is not so trained.
Interesting. Yeah.
Well, that was one of the most interesting things when you created Breathcore and put it up for sale and put it out there to the world. I was able to start it, and it's one of the toughest workouts for your midsection ab core workouts, but it doesn't feel like you're doing much. You're just breathing and stabilizing and just putting things on top of each other, stabilizing everything.
That's what I noticed when I was doing it, was that
I love that you both
I felt like I had a lot. I felt like I was doing a lot, but I also still felt relaxed. Like I didn't feel like exhausted from doing it. Like I can't do this anymore. When you're at the gym and you're like just pumping, you're like, dude, I can't do another one. Like I got through the trainings.
It doesn't hurt you,
right?
Like I've had really bad.
I just still felt relaxed doing it.
Yeah, it's a great course. Do you have it on your site?
Yeah, it's right there on my site. If you go to my homepage, Breathcore program is right there.
What's your site?
It's my name, Jessi, Jessi, Rose like the flower, McMaster.com.
All right.
Mick is MC, right?
MC Master, Jessi Rose McMaster. Yep. And the Breathcore program is right there.
View courses? Right here, Breathcore. Great. Yep. Click that bad boy, Alex.
What I realized when I was working with clients is that I was teaching the same thing to everybody. I would start everybody kind of at the same place. And so with Breathcore, I created as a 2-week program. It's very simple. The workouts are like 20 minutes and under. Awesome. There's a lot of training in that. You could take 2 weeks and do the whole thing. It would be like you're doing it every day.
Yeah.
So, it takes people a little longer to get through, but it's all about how do you connect with your core strength in a supportive and stable way. And it's all about using your breath. We don't use any weights. The only really real piece of equipment is like a small stability ball. That's what I like to use, just like a small stability ball. You could use a pillow if you wanted or something like that.
Yeah.
I start the training seated in a chair. The first 2 workouts are seated in a chair because I wanted to show people. Can we
click on that, Alex? Do you have like a sample of it?
No, but that'd be a good idea. I do need to put.
Well, we could just map it into here, because even though we are live, this is pre-recorded too, so we can drop this in right here, Alex. Right here.
Cool.
Yeah. So the abdominals are I love anatomy.
Yeah.
And the thing about core is you have 4 layers of abdominal muscles.
Mm-hmm.
When people have a 6-pack, all that means is their most superficial, so their most outer layer of abdominal muscle has some tone.
What about an 18-pack?
What about a keg?
That's a little different. Because the deepest layers of abs are literally meant to cinch your waist like a corset, like literally like a corset, like cinch your waist.
Okay.
But the only way to work those muscles is with your breath.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In yoga, we don't do like ab exercises. Why? Because we do a lot of breathing.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are breathing the way your body was meant to breathe, right? You're using your abdomen, you're using your ribs, you're making sure your diaphragm's moving up and down. You don't ever need to do any crunches.
So they're called work-ins.
Work-ins. You're training your abs to cinch and draw in. And when your deepest layer of abs is drawing in, your lower back is in the backside, right? And so those muscles are literally supporting the lumbar spine, lifting it up out of the pelvis, which then allows you to have better posture, allows everything else to work better. Also, all your internal organs are in there. And so as you draw those abdominal muscles in, you're also creating heat around your internal organs, which helps to burn any sort of adipose tissue that you have around there.
What's adipose tissue?
Fat.
Okay.
Fat. So like what happens when you start to get a big belly is what's in between your organs.
What you talking about, Willie?
Yeah. Oh no.
You got tissue and fluid, but if you're using your abdominal muscles, your deep abdominal muscles are like a pump. And when you're breathing properly and you're using your abdominal muscles like a pump, it's going to push out all the gross fluid that tends to just sit in between your internal organs that you don't need, right? Buildup of inflammation, stagnation happens, and that's where we run into issues. So you can literally use your breath to kind of clear the pump. You're clearing the drain, constantly clear the drain, put the garbage disposal on, clear the drain. Make sure you got this nice, clean drain. Everything works better.
Yeah.
Well, how much does, I always have this conversation, how much does food play a role in fitness?
Your body needs nutrients and minerals and vitamins. So it plays a big role. Absolutely. Like you can't
like
eat
a percentage. Are you like, you need to eat healthy. 80% of it is eating healthy. 20% is exercise.
I think we
put
need
it
to
into a category.
I think we need to stop eating so much processed food.
Yeah.
I think that's the main thing. Is things that come in a bag, box, or a can. They're not really good.
Whole Foods is all you want to eat.
Whole Foods. Just eat food. Eat
not the store.
Yeah.
I mean, you could go there. They got lots of good, but processed foods. Now even a lot of our oils that we cook our food in are genetically modified oils.
Right.
Seed
it's
oils.
all seed oils. Yeah.
If it doesn't come from nature, just try to avoid it a little bit.
Yeah.
Or be aware.
Melissa tells me exactly the same thing.
I don't think it's about okay, you need to eat this and this and this. You need to find what works for you, but understand that processed food is not real food.
Yeah.
If your food doesn't rot, don't eat it.
Yeah. I think it's sit and not get, moldy for days. That's not a good sign.
Yeah.
Were we talking about this? Earlier, or is it just me? But we were talking about food in Europe is far different than it is here.
Oh yeah.
You can go to Europe and eat a lot of food that you can't that you would eat here, and you'd have gluten intolerance.
What we were talking about was the prescribed medications and how they can't be sold. There can't be commercials.
They can't be. You can't advertise pharmaceuticals.
Right. Yeah, in Europe.
And now the food that they sell us right after that prescribed commercial, it's like that's the food. If there's a pharmaceutical commercial for a new drug, whatever food comes up after, don't eat that food.
Right.
It's all the same, companies. But that's another conversation.
Well, yeah, my sister is telling me because my niece is in Prague right now. She's teaching overseas in Prague, and my sister is over there, and she's like, you can eat anything over there. You don't get sick. You don't feel like crap. You can have bread. Right.
Well, and the difference is especially when it comes to wheat and corn and the way we farm out here. We've really messed it up.
Yeah.
We were trying to mass produce things, and we started not treating the ground properly. Like, you can't always plant the same crop in the same area all the time.
Yeah.
That's just not the way. You got to move it.
Yeah.
But what happened was that wasn't efficient. That wasted too much money, too much time. So we just, okay, well, if we put these
chemicals in here,
then we can do it. And so we just kept doing that. And eventually now our wheat is so genetically modified that it's literally making people sick, which is why so many people are gluten intolerant and stuff like that.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
And in Europe, you don't have that problem.
Yeah.
Because they didn't do
the same thing. I mean, they're starting to.
Yeah.
They're starting to
it's
now.
not,
I think I might have sent you a link on it, Ryan, that, Bayer just merged with Monsanto.
Oh, yeah.
And Bayer is the leading company for manufacturing drugs that cure non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Monsanto is a pesticide that is one of the leading causes of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Right? So we've really got to start paying attention to what we're doing around here.
Yeah.
Right?
Makes you think.
It makes you think a lot.
Yeah.
So I agree that those whole foods, my wife's father grows a lot of his own vegetables on his land. And, every time I eat that stuff, it's great.
Yeah. And I think focusing on that is important.
There's still hope here in America, though, with our diets.
But I also think it's the way,
right?
It's the way people train.
Yeah.
I think that oftentimes we have a certain, like, okay, I go to the gym and I do these exercises because that's what I've always done.
Mm-hmm.
That's not really good for your nervous system, because your nervous system thrives on change, and it will rewire when you confuse it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're always doing the same thing and you're always going to the gym, because I like bicep curls, and this is what I always do.
But it is fun to do those, so it's kind of fun,
Well, you got to mix it up. Maybe you don't do bicep curls with the weights. Instead, you use the cable machine, or instead you do them a different way. You got to change. You change up the angle, or you change up, instead of high reps with low weight, you switch it up. You go high weight, low reps. You got to constantly switch up the way you're exercising. A lot of people that I work with, they're just doing the same things that they've been doing since high school.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's how they know how to work out. I was the same way.
That's the way I still do it now. And I mean, I do need to change it up. I do need to change it up. It was always back and buys one day, chest and tries the next day, shoulders and traps the next day, and then legs the next day, repeat.
And I'm not saying that's wrong, but what I'm saying is at different stages in our life, we need different training programs.
Yeah.
So what your body needed in high school is different than what it needed in its 20s, which is different than what it will need in its 40s, which will different after you just had an injury, which is different after you just had a baby, which is different, and to understand.
I can completely notice the difference of how I worked out and how I exercised when I was 20 and the results that I got out of it versus 30 versus 40.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
and
huge.
Also a way to keep, you mentioned, you get motivated, you work out for whatever, and then you fall off. That's a common thing.
Yeah.
A way to keep yourself interested in what you're doing is to change it, is to do something else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not going to the gym. Maybe now you're the next 2 weeks, you're just doing long walks.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing wrong with walking. We all could walk a little bit more.
Yeah.
And so some of my clients are like, I don't want to go to the gym. I'm like, okay, can you do a 10-minute walk?
Mm-hmm.
They're like, yeah, I could do a 10-minute walk. Perfect.
Yeah.
Go.
Do that 10-minute walk. I'm going to count that as a workout today.
Yeah.
That's how I am as a trainer. I'm like, okay, okay, you need something else? How about some Pilates? Let's try some Pilates. Okay, you're over Pilates. Okay, how about let's lift some weights.
Mm-hmm.
And you constantly are just changing and adapting your movement routine to adapt to your lifestyle. Another thing that I love to teach is, one thing that I do throughout the year is I change how I teach my classes and also how I personally work out my own body by the season of the year.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's because I also study Ayurveda, and in Ayurveda, you have to look at your environment. So the summer is a different kind of environment that needs different practices in order to stay balanced in.
Mm.
What is Ayurveda?
Ayurveda is the science of life. It is the sister science with yoga. And it really is, it's so much, but it's
Was it in the Vedas?
Ayurveda comes from the Vedas too.
Yeah.
So it's, herbs and self-care practices, different oils, like I use oil on my skin, and in the winter I use a thicker oil than in the summer. Something simple like that, right?
I do that with my engine oil.
You do it for your car. Why not do it for yourself?
I know. I should.
Right?
I need to start. I need to start. Yeah.
But it's an important aspect and we don't think about it. But if you start to think of, okay, how can I adapt what I'm doing to better fit where I'm at in my season of life, in this season of year, you're going to stay way more interested in what you're doing. And you're going to keep your body constantly adapting. Right?
I like how you include this ancient wisdom into new age, fitness practices. You sneak it in there. People.
I try to sneak it in there.
Yeah.
For a long time, I didn't. When I was like building my online business, I didn't want to use the word fitness because I don't necessarily see myself as a fitness trainer. I am, but I'm like a.
I think it's almost like an evolved fitness trainer, right?
Well, it's lifestyle because I don't think anything is. That's why I use the word holistic, because I don't think anything is just one thing.
Yeah.
It's not just the body. Like if you work with me, we're not talking just about the body. We're also going to talk about your mindset. We're also going to talk about how are you breathing? How are you sleeping? Where are you at in your life? What do you got going on? What other practices you need? Like a big part that I also teach now, because a lot of the people, well, me, myself included in this, we're stressed out. We got a lot of anxiety. There's a lot of things going on. So learning how to actively relax is a very helpful tool. Like learn how to downregulate your nervous system. Let's start there. Don't even go to the gym. Don't even worry about working out. How about learn how to downregulate your nervous system? Let's just start there.
That's awesome.
And it's amazing the results, the changes people feel when they understand how to downregulate their own nervous system.
So do you, that said, do you suffer from any of those kind of issues like anxiety and things like that?
So I used to be very anxious, very anxious. I would have panic attacks. I would have panic attacks in my sleep. Like I didn't sleep very well. I'd be tossing and turning, and I would like.
What were they stemming from, do you think?
Just kind of being a little high strung. I mean, I think what we were talking about earlier, I had a lot of jobs. I was doing all these things. I was very, I can be kind of type A in that way. I tend to be pretty organized. I was also, like I said, an older sister. Like in my family, I had to
glue.
I felt like I had to take this role of
right. And if I'm not organized, then things are things are chaotic.
And I had to grow up really fast. I felt like I had to grow up really fast. And with that came a lot of responsibility. And I know like a lot of that's like, I put that on myself, but I was worried all the time. Like, what am I going to do? I was worried about my siblings. I was worried about my parents. I was worried about this. And I had a lot of self-doubt, a lot of like, deep down inside, I didn't really like myself, like I was like, oh, I didn't have a really good relationship inside. And so that gives you a lot of anxiety when you don't necessarily like what's going on the inside. And so I had panic attack, so I dealt with a lot of that. And that's why I say, like, I use yoga for my mental health, not for my workout. I don't go to yoga to work out.
How can you, I guess to sum up that, how can yoga, what is it that you do in yoga that helps with anxiety? Because I know that's like a huge problem. Like everybody I talk to these days, everybody has anxiety. I had it for maybe, 6 or 8 months out of the last 20 years. But I don't know. I thought it was a mental thing, and I'm just like, just get rid of it. And then I just never really had it again.
Well, what happened?
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Well, what happens is, it is a mental thing, right? It's because our nervous systems control everything. So if we're thinking a certain way, it's going to send signals into our body that's going to have a chemical response, right? Our endocrine system is going to release certain chemicals into our bloodstream, which is then going to make our body feel a certain way.
Yep.
So if I'm having racing thoughts, if I'm worried about things, if I'm frustrated, if I feel very confused, if I'm scattered, I'm like kind of all over the place, then my body is going to shoot cortisol and adrenaline into my bloodstream. And what that's going to do to my muscles is going to make my muscles feel tense, going to make you feel anxious, right? Now, what happens is then we start to, okay, well, I want to not feel anxious anymore. So I'm going to go to yoga or do some other techniques. But at this point, I've been thinking a certain way for so long and releasing signals into my body. Chemicals are being released in my body for a while. Now my tissue, my physical body, my muscles, my connective tissue, they're kind of addicted to those chemicals. So there's like a residual. And sometimes people have a hard time sitting through that really uncomfortable part where you're breaking an addiction. So in yoga, the reason it tends to help people is because finally you're sitting with it. You're not trying to run from it. Because anxiety, we're like, I don't want to feel anxious. Like anxious is bad. Okay, let me just take this Xanax. Oh, so it feels so much better. That doesn't necessarily do anything about the root cause of where that anxiety is coming from.
Right, again, it's fixing the symptoms,
just fixing
right?
the symptom. It's not really handling the root cause. So in yoga, it provides a space for you to sit with it. You're going to get uncomfortable because your body is addicted to the cortisol. It's addicted to the adrenaline. It's addicted to the worry. It's addicted to the confusion. Even though those are things maybe you're like, I don't want that. Well, your body is now addicted to it because you've been thinking about it for a long time. So yoga creates a space where you become aware, oh, wow, I'm really uncomfortable. Like I can actually sit with it. And then, let me stretch and let me find what feels good, because finding movement that feels good is going to, like I said earlier, everything gets downloaded through the body. So I got to release some of the old downloads, right? That old worry that I picked up from my mom. I don't need that anymore. And so now I'm sitting with it. I'm realizing, whoa, that worry is not even mine. Okay, let me stretch and just let me get that worry out. And then, wow, this anger, well, this is not mine. That was like grandpa's anger. Okay, well, let me stretch that. But you've downloaded these things over time and they've literally become a part of your tissue. To unwind from that, you got to be able to sit with the uncomfortable. And yoga just creates a space where you can sit with the uncomfortable for a moment. And it gives you the tools to navigate the uncomfortable and be able to hopefully transcend that, transform it into something else. So you're breathing the 8 limbs, right? The 8 limbs are the tools that allow you to navigate the discomfort. Because on the other side of all that discomfort is going to be a whole lot of relief. It's going to be all the things that you want, the less anxious, less stressed, sleeping better, being more motivated to work out, feeling more inspired is on the other side of discomfort.
Being nicer.
Being a nicer person, feeling more connected to others, like enjoying life.
Also being more confident too. And standing up for, what you believe in.
Well, it's interesting that, you're talking about the endocrine system and cortisol, because that is the tumor that was inside my lung that was releasing cortisol at extremely high values, which was telling my adrenal glands to release adrenaline. And that's what was like kind of breaking down my body that, whole time in 2020, and which my doctor said is a result from all the stress, right? So I personally think that developed because I had so much stuff going on that I needed more cortisol.
You were go.
Yeah, I was go. And I don't think that my pituitary gland could produce enough cortisol for my body to keep up with everything that I had going on. So I developed this neuroendocrine tumor that helped release more cortisol, which allowed my body to release adrenaline. And, sorry, Dr. Bonner, I could be 100% wrong, but that's just like my hypothesis is that's why my body developed
the body is
cancer.
So adaptable.
Yeah.
Right? The body's going to adapt.
Mhm.
So you were running on high stress for a long time.
Yeah.
So the body adapted by finding a way to kind of keep you going, but it wasn't sustainable.
Right, exactly. It wasn't sustainable. It eventually started breaking down the
Mhm.
muscles in my body, and that's when I started to notice a physical change, right? Which is why I went to the doctor for the physical change. They couldn't figure out what it was because it's such a rare disease,
Yeah.
right?
I think it was when we were driving out to LA for either NAM or the Viper Room show.
It was the Viper Room show, yeah.
And JB's like, yeah, I don't really get stressed. I don't get stressed out, you know. I just like, but dude, you're doing everything because at that time you were deep in the band stuff, which is a whole monster, and deep in everything you're doing, family, the business.
Well, we were moving into this facility too, so I was working on the design of this facility
and running the business, and
right.
He's saying, I don't really feel stressed, you know. I just like your mind might not feel stressed, but your body's feeling the stress.
That's yeah.
Like,
I'll never forget when you said that. And that's exactly what you said, and that really started making me think internally because. I mean, in my physical sense at that time, my brain couldn't calculate what I really looked like. My brain still thought I looked normal, you know, but now I look back at those pictures and I'm like, holy shit, I was like about to explode. This is insane. Like, and everybody kept telling me that, but I'm like, I just got a lot of stuff going on. Don't worry about it.
He's just really tan right now.
Yeah.
He's sunburnt, but he hasn't been in the sun for a while.
Yeah, I remember Jamie saying that. He's like, wow, man, it's like November and you're still really tan.
Yeah, and my mom was, I'm like, no, it's the lake. He goes to the lake all the time. It's like, it's winter. I'm like,
that's what I did say too. I told Jamie that. I'm like, yeah, it was, you know, I was at the lake a lot in September and October. But yeah, so going back to exactly what you're saying, it's all totally making sense, you know.
Yeah, and
how do you relieve that stress? You have to,
and your body is always talking to you. Mm-hmm. Your body is constantly sending you signals, but when we are stressed, when we are anxious, when we're living up here in our head, we're not listening to our body.
Yeah,
because the body will tell you like, hey, you need to slow down.
Yeah.
Hey, you need to take a nap. Like, you need to eat better. I don't feel good. Like, your body's going to tell you those things. But if you're moving so fast and all up here, only listening to the voice in your head, the dialogue up here, you're going to ignore your body, you know? And that's the other thing is like yoga is this chance to sit with your body. And I think that's also sometimes, and I don't think yoga is the only way to do that at all. Yeah. I don't. But I do think that we need to take time to listen to our bodies. So we got to find time to do that. And that's one of the things about down regulating, right? Mm-hmm. The way we down regulate is we start to tune into something else besides the conversation in your head. Mm-hmm. There's other things you have access to, other intelligences. That's what I like to, you know, there's other intelligences you have access to. This voice in your head is not the only one. And it's really important to stop boosting that ego, you know, this mental, like, yo, you know everything, brain, like everything you say is correct. It's like, that's not true. It's like, you got to stop listening to him or her. Like and when you drop into your body or start listening to you really understand your senses. Like I was talking about the pratyahara practices, your mind actually gets clearer. Like when you quiet it and you focus on other things, your senses, your body, then the mind stops chatting so much. And the mind will then focus and tell you things that actually matter, that are actually helpful versus the anxious thoughts and the stressful thoughts and the things.
If you were going to look at, you know, practicing yoga, you know, in a healthy way, you know, how much time would you have to spend a week to get into a healthy? Is there a timeline to get into a healthy state? It's like, you know, most people, I would assume, you know, I'm the kind of guy that's like, you know, give me the parameters and I'll focus on the parameters. What would those parameters be for a good start for somebody to, you know, start to get in a healthy way utilizing yoga?
I would say once a week.
Once a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say it's important to, not all yoga teachers are made the same.
Mm-hmm.
Just like not all, everything. Like find a teacher and a class that you enjoy, that you're like, oh, I enjoyed that.
Mm-hmm.
And then go back the next week. Take that same class, same teacher, and repeat that several weeks in a row and just see where that takes you.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I would say.
How long do you think before you start seeing results?
Well, I think once you start to understand how you feel, like that feeling of downregulating your nervous system. I mean, that is on a physiological level. That's what's happening. Once you start to understand what that is doing for your day-to-day life, you'll want more.
Mm-hmm. And
you'll start to go more.
Is there a way to measure it, right? Like people want to get on a scale and say, oh, I lost 2 pounds. Yeah, is there a way to measure that?
There's an interesting thing. And what I've noticed when I'm more in my yoga practice and meditation, and it's, you measure it from the things that like don't happen. And I mean, as like I'm driving down the street and the traffic or someone cuts me off and I have no reaction to it. Mm-hmm. And then I just keep driving and I go, wait a minute, I didn't react to that. Mm-hmm. And so it's realizing that I'm not in pain when I, or, hey, I just jumped up like really quick to do something else. Mm-hmm. Whereas like in Western, everything, it's like result based.
Yeah.
And almost from this like this Eastern Indian philosophy, it's like the opposite. Like no result, like, just flow, and that's what you'll notice it after the fact. And I
love that. I think that's
that's very interesting.
I mean, that's definitely what I started to notice. I was like less reactive. Like I wasn't as angry. I wasn't as anxious. That's totally it.
You know what? One thing that
things don't bug you as much. You're just like chill.
It's tough, and that's why I'm hoping at some point, and we definitely want. It would behoove us to have you back for another conversation.
Definitely,
considering all the knowledge and all the things that I know we haven't even tapped into, but talking about yoga, it's such a. You hear the word yoga and then you automatically have this thought of
there's an association to it, right?
And yoga is a noun, a verb, and an adjective. And it's like when you start to understand that, and it's going to be different. It's not like hey man, an Olympic power lift.
I've always thought, I've always thought about yoga as, something that, I really could take a liking to. And I always, anybody that does yoga, like does it as a practice, they all look really healthy. Right. And I don't know if it's just because people who like yoga also have a healthy lifestyle on top of that, or if it's just like because they do yoga, they're friggin' healthy, but they all look healthy,
There are to a certain degree though too. It goes like even people can take advantage of like I'm a yogi.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, I would never trust you.
Guys that wear man buns,
and have like beards. No, but it's like, but you can't protect the ones you love, and you're actually a jerk to be around. It's different. I think you've kind of come across a lot of that where people are like, oh yeah, you teach yoga training. Well, what I do this and I do that,
Yeah, people want to. Yeah, I mean,
like, do you know the da like it's like they're trying to sniff you out.
Yeah, one of the things that I really try to focus on is my truth, and all I can speak from is my truth, and I know the kind of yoga that I practice and the kind of yoga that I teach and how I'm trying to help others, right? Because that's like, how do I take my knowledge and my artistry and how can I help others? And that's what I'm here for. So when people try to get into this, like, whatever, about it, like competition about it, or they want me to like pinhole me like, oh, well, do you teach yoga flow or do you teach I'm like, well, I teach all yoga. I could teach it all.
Mm-hmm.
Put me in front of a class.
Is there specific things that you're like, this particular portion or practice of yoga works the best? And is there like different dialects of yoga?
There is a lot. This conversation could go on for hours.
Yeah. Okay.
There is a lot of yoga. The yoga asana, which is one portion.
Yep.
We could also do like bhakti yoga is for an example. Bhakti yoga is like a devotional type of yoga.
We're going to do a whole conversation.
Well, we could. And we will do that.
A yoga.
It's like there's different types of karate, right? Or different types of martial arts. And
Yeah. there's
different types of yoga.
That's like talking about the different types of guitars.
And I don't think, I don't,
Right, okay.
The reason I don't ever say like, this is the kind of yoga I teach, because I teach people.
Mm-hmm.
So it depends who's in front of me. It depends whether I'm working one-on-one with a client or I'm working with a business or I'm working with a whole class. It depends on who's in front of me and what do they need right now?
Mm-hmm.
Where are they? I might take in consideration what season of the year it is. Like I take into all these things, like where are we right now? Who's in front of me and what do they need? And then I start to apply my, all the tools that I have in my tool belt,
Right.
all the things that I've learned over the past 12, 13 years.
Scalpel.
Yeah.
Right.
And I start to apply them and that's what I teach. Right. And that to me is yoga.
Yeah.
Because that's the union. How do I help these people feel the best that they can possibly feel?
And that's
right
what
now?
yoga means.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Union.
I don't think anybody could have said that better for sure.
Yeah. But there's a lot of people that are like, oh no, you need to teach like flow or whatever. They got all these names there's all these crazy names for yoga classes now. And maybe that's for them. They want to teach those kinds of classes and stuff like that. And
So going back to your seasonal sessions and modules that you put on, you have one coming up here next week.
Yes.
You're offering a free training to kind of ramp up into your next.
I am. Next.
Did I hear the word free?
It's free.
Okay, so we got a free training. Tell us about it.
Okay, so next week I'm offering a free 4-day challenge. I'm calling it Functional Fitness Foundations, and you get 4 free workouts. I'm styling it as workouts, but each day is going to focus on a different aspect of functional fitness, and things that actually working out types of things that actually help you in your day to day.
Yeah.
So this can get them started. This can get them started in the world of yoga.
Started. Absolutely. And it's really just about like bringing in awareness, this 4-day training, bringing in awareness to maybe things you haven't thought about before. Things like how to take care of your feet, how to strengthen your lower leg. Something so simple, but extremely effective for boosting your metabolism, helping you lose weight, also helping you feel more balanced on your feet. Very simple exercises you can do that will just help you start to feel better in your body. So I'm doing a 4-day training. And then in October, I'm launching my holistic strength training course. I do a couple times a year, I do holistic strength training where I walk you through how to use weight training and resistance training at home in a very simple, beginner-friendly way, and then how to progress that. So people that are maybe a little more intermediate or advanced, I have programs for them too. But I have a whole 8-week program coming up in the fall that I'm going to run.
Very cool.
And it'll be all based also around the fall season, right?
Mm-hmm.
The seasons are about to change into fall. So I will cater the whole training around how to adapt our exercise, our weight training to the fall season.
How do people sign up for this?
Yeah, slap that website down again. Where do they go?
And that's all on my website, but sign up for the free training first. That's the first, like come to the free training and then that'll lead us into the holistic strength training.
And that's where?
You can find all of it actually on my Instagram. If you go right to my profile, I always have my most recent links of whatever programs, whether it's the free program or whatever program's coming up right there on my Instagram profile.
What's the Instagram profile?
Oh, my name, Jessi Rose McMaster.
Strong. Awesome. Very strong.
Yeah.
We'll put that right in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So I know we ran we run it and we're not even
we ran the course again.
We've been running it.
We ran the course again.
But I wanted to ask we always have a question. We'll get to it. I can't decide which I want to do first. Well, first we'll do the question. Every guest that we have, I like to ask, we ask the question of if you could go back in time and speak to your younger self, what would you say to her?
That's a great question. If I could go back in time and talk to my younger self, I would probably tell her that she's doing a great job and that things are going to be okay and that you're doing a great job. Like, be patient. You're doing great. Trust yourself. Something like that.
Yeah, I think that's good advice for people. I think that a lot of people, especially when we're younger, right? We always feel inadequate.
Yeah.
Right? We're not ready for the challenges or
Unworthy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you don't realize it until you're kind of cruising along later. I was talking to my daughter last night. She's looking at wanting to move out and buy a house and do all those kind of things. And it's like, a lot of those things are challenging. And I'm telling her, like, you got to look out for this because you've never really had to pay bills before, and now you're going to have to pay bills,
all
and right, all of them,
and they come back next month,
right? And I'm like, those, the little egg bites that are inside the fridge, you're probably not going to be buying those because you won't be able to afford them because you have all these bills. Right now, we're buying them for you, But she said, a really smart return was that, Dad, eventually I'm going to have to learn that, I got to learn it at some time. So, I'm just going to jump out there and just get started on it. How did you do it? I'm like, it's pretty much it. I mean, you eventually start doing it,
So I'm going to just take the liberty and take a little bit more advantage of your time because I'm good at doing that. And I'm going to ask, if you don't mind, quickly to walk us through a quick meditation for businessmen and entrepreneurs like the ones we are, sitting at our desks all day and getting stiff in our thoughts and in our flow. Can you walk us through a quick 1 to 2 minute meditation rundown of at the end of the day kind of scenario? Alex, have it on all three of us, and then when you finish the podcast, when you finish the meditation, that'll be the end of this episode.
I need to loosen up my style here. So what do we do?
I would love
Show
to.
us how. Show us the way.
Would it be good if John and I put the headphones on, because then you just be in our ears, or should we just?
I mean, I don't know.
You tell us. You're
the boss. You're the teacher.
No, we can just do it like
Okay,
we can just do it like this. This will be good. So we're just gonna start. Just kind of feel your feet on the floor and sit up tall. Just kind of organize your posture for a moment.
Okay, I'm sitting
We
nice
are
and
looking
tall
in the
now.
camera. How do I look?
Do I
And
look tall?
yes, and just take a breath, big breath into your belly, and a big exhale out. And you don't have to close your eyes, but I would invite you to just kind of stare at the floor and do that again. Just take a big belly breath. Relax your shoulders, relax your jaw, big exhale. And bring your awareness to your feet. Just kind of feel your feet on the floor, pressing into your right foot and your left foot. And then feel the crown of your head lifting up towards the sky. Just feel the length of your spine. And take another big breath. Let's see, can you soften your shoulders? Can you relax your jaw? And bring your awareness to your feet again, just pressing into your feet. Awareness to your head, lifting up through the crown of your head. And take another big breath into a soft belly. Really get your breath all the way down into your abdomen, into your ribs. And an easy exhale, let it go. And then I want you to notice your hands. Can you soften your hands, soften your fingertips? And can you open your heart a little more? Just maybe lifting the chest, allowing the shoulders to draw back. And take another big breath. Just keeping it simple. Just taking a moment to notice your breath, to notice your body. See if you could soften just a little bit. We'll do one more breath. That's it. Just one more breath. Grounding into the moment and closing out our podcast today. And I always like to end with a hand on the heart. It's kind of a little thank you. Thank you for the moment. Thank you for the experience. And that's it. You are complete.
Awesome. Thanks, Jessi.
You're welcome.
I'm relaxed.
Thanks for having me.
We ain't done yet.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thanks for coming. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome.
That was so
Thank
fun.
you, Alex.
That was.
Thank you, Alex.